Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Sign in for 30 days, SS-level ghosts will suppress the world. Chapter 21. What is the experience of staring at the bottom of the water by many stinky and rotten corpses? Chen Zan is facing such a problem at the moment. If it weren't for the ghost mask that could help him isolate the water and breath, I'm afraid he would have the urge to vomit. Looking at the group of corpses that were approaching him step by step, Chen Zan stood there, frowning slightly. He is not worried that these ghost slaves can cause harm to himself, he is thinking about how to find the source of the drowned ghost. There are no 10,000 or 8,000 corpses, and every corpse here may become a drowned ghost. It's not easy to find. How does it control these corpses? Chen Zan was lost in thought as he watched the approaching corpse slave. It's definitely not directly connected by wool, because the ghosts themselves have no wool, and even if there is, if this is the case, you can see the ghost slaves under the entire rain curtain. Not all should be gathered in this artificial lake. Wait, an artificial lake. Quote, Chen Zan suddenly flashed his eyes and thought of a possibility. Since it was suicide by throwing into the lake, it must have something to do with water. Could it be that the drowned ghost uses water to control these ghost slaves? Chen Zan seemed to have found a breakthrough, and felt that his thoughts became clear. The previous Xiaoyu was also a part of the ghost realm, which can change the consciousness of living people, but once you become a ghost slave, you need to be completely in the water to be able to be controlled. Suddenly, Chen Zan raised his head, and a smile appeared under the blood-stained mask. If this is the case, then there is no water. Is it impossible for the corpse slave to control it? How can there be no water? Chen Zan suddenly raised his hand and took off the top hat on his head. The next moment, with a thought, he activated the ability of the top hat. The system said that there may be a world in the ghost hat, so if that's the case, put all the corpse water in it. Without the corpse water, how can you control it? Grumpy. With Chen Zan's manipulation, a surging sound of bubbles began to appear in the dark hood. Then a terrifying suction force began to emerge from it, and the rolling water began to flow toward it. This speed is even faster than the combined speed of 10 pumps. Just as the water flow continued to surge, the power of the ghost realm released by the drowned ghost was actually affected and began to become unstable. Captain, look, outside the community, Chen Ruoking, who had been staring anxiously, suddenly screamed. Suddenly, a flickering picture appeared in the Deu Villa community inside the gate. A phantom of an artificial lake appeared on the originally flat ground. Even the majestic rain in the sky began to weaken. The ghost realm has weakened. Zhang Qing's gaze towards the community was also full of surprise. How long has it been? That gentleman can actually weaken the ghost realm of the drowned ghost. Moreover, he can clearly feel that the other party itself does not exist in the ghost realm. But the more so, the more terrifying Chen Zan appears. Without the ghost realm, it can suppress the drowned ghost who has the ghost realm. How terrible should this ghost be? Quick, let's go and help. Chen Ruoking cares about this senior, and she can't sit still when she sees the twisted ghost realm. But as soon as she acted, she was pulled by Zhang Qing. You're crazy. This ghost realm is just unstable and hasn't dissipated yet. If you go in now, you will most likely be drowned. So, are we here to watch? Chen Ruoking said anxiously. We went and caused chaos, you know. Zhang Qing stopped and said, you should have confidence in that senior. He can suppress the ghost realm, and naturally he can suppress the ghost, we just wait quietly. On the other side, with the continuous surging of the corpse water, the corpse slaves who were walking forward were pulled by the water current, but their pace became faster. But at this moment, the ghost doll standing beside Chen Zan turned his head, constantly sweeping over the corpses. Forcibly slowed their movements, creating time for Chen Zan to absorb the corpse water. 1 minute, 2 minutes, a full 5 minutes. Chen Zan felt that his top hat was like a bottomless pit. Even if the 3 artificial lakes were dried up in 5 minutes, the corpse water had not been completely absorbed. This is also related to the constant rainfall in the drowned ghost domain, otherwise, it would not be possible to gather so much water in a short period of time. Goo. As the corpse water disappeared, a minute later, Chen Zan finally saw his body emerge from the lake. Everything in front of him became completely clear. At this time, he was standing at the bottom of the artificial lake, surrounded by a dense crowd of dead ghost slaves. However, after losing the package of corpse water, they really stopped in place and didn't move. When Chen Zan completely drained the corpse water, those ghost slaves fell to the ground. At the same time, Chen Zan's gaze passed through the continuous bodies and saw the figure standing in the center of the lake bottom. This is a terrifying corpse that has been soaked in pale white and swollen. It seems that the black skirt is strangled into the flesh. His long black hair was scattered in front of his face, covering most of his face. On the exposed half, you can see the rotten skin and the eyeballs that have disappeared, and it is impossible to distinguish between males and females from the appearance alone. Gurgling corpse water is constantly seeping from its swollen pores, and if left alone, a new ghost realm will soon be formed. Fortunately, it is now suppressed by Chen Zan. This thing should be able to be swallowed by a ghost doll, right? Chen Zan could feel a thirst through the ghost doll. He didn't expect that this time he solved a task and got a ghost. And he is still a ghost with a ghost realm. The harvest is not small. With this in mind, he took the ghost doll and walked over, preparing to put the drowned ghost into the ghost hat. But just after taking a few steps, Chen Zan suddenly paused and looked to one side. I saw that among the fallen ghost slave corpses, two figures, one tall and one short, actually climbed up from it. The short man was fat and even bloated. If you look closely, you will find that except for his normal face, the rest of his exposed skin is covered with pus-filled blisters. The other tall man looked like a corpse, walking stiffly and slowly, with a bag in his hand. Something like a woven bag, but no matter how you look at it, it looks like a body bag. The material of this corpse bag looks a bit special. After soaking in corpse water for so long, there is no damage at all. These two people, can be said to be ghost-like people, and at this moment are approaching the drowned ghost in the center of the lake. It's just that their speed is slower, not as good as Chen Zan. Seeing this, Chen Zan retracted his gaze and ignored the other party, but walked up to the drowned ghost on his own. Let go of his hand and let the ghost doll walk towards the drowned ghost. The ground of the artificial lake has been specially designed by someone, so there is no muddy feeling except for being wet. The ghost doll in a long black tulle dress is approaching the other side step by step with mechanical and stiff footsteps. Not far away, both the fat man Lao Pao and the tall man carrying the body bag saw this scene. Then, an eerie, stiff, hoarse voice sounded from Fatty's mouth. And many more. His voice fell, but the ghost puppet doll turned a deaf ear, still approaching the drowned ghost. Not far away, Chen Zan didn't even look at him. Seeing this, Fatty Lao Pao's complexion changed, and his expression sank slightly. This gentleman, thank you for solving this corpse water for us, but we have been preparing for this drowned ghost for a long time, so please make it convenient. The tall man also had a cold and authentic voice. Shenyu technology can be purchased with enough money, as long as the gentleman can make a price. Suddenly, the ghost doll stopped in front of the drowned ghost. At this moment, Chen Zan tilted his head slightly and looked at the other party. Is it a bid? Fatty Lao Pao was slightly overjoyed, nodded and said, yes, as long as you speak, our Shenyu technology will definitely not be stingy. Okay, Chen Zan nodded and said casually, how about 100 tons of gold then? Fatty Lao Pao and the tall man sank at the same time. Sir, are you kidding me? They had been confined to the bottom of the lake by the corpse water before, but they also witnessed the scene of Chen Zan's solution to the corpse water. That's why Fatty Lao Pao was so polite. If it was another person, he would have been impatient. The name of the scalding ghost is not for nothing. Joke. Chen Zan chuckled instead. Do you think I'm joking? How? Can't afford it. If you can't afford it, just give it to me. Next time, don't hesitate to tell people to bid casually. I have no ability, so I don't get embarrassed at the time. Quote. When the words fell, the ghost doll raised its arms and was about to cover the body of the drowned ghost. Don't talk nonsense with him, we'll imprison the drowned ghost first, and then everything will be discussed. A cold light flashed in the eyes of the tall man next to him, as if he didn't intend to gossip with Chen Zan. The two of them came here with a mission this time. If they didn't take the drowned ghost back, it would be difficult for them to communicate with each other. Well, I stopped that ghost puppet, and you were responsible for the detention. Fatty Lao Pao also nodded and seemed to agree with the other party's opinion. As soon as he grabbed his hands, the sleeves of his arms were torn apart, revealing 2 terrifying arms full of large blisters and corpse spots. The blisters were bubbling up one by one, each one the size of an egg, and it was still beating, like a living thing. Fatty Lao Pao grabbed with both hands, endured the severe pain, and broke all the Laobuo on his arm. In an instant, a hot pus flowed out of it, turned into steam, and quickly drifted towards the ghost doll in the distance. As long as it is contaminated by this steam, even Spectre will lose the ability to move. On the other side, the pale, corpse-like tall man dragged his corpse bag and started running wildly. His pace was slow at first, but after a few steps it got faster and faster. Every step of the fall seemed to be extremely heavy, making the whole ground tremble. It took only a few seconds for the 2 of them to talk to hands. Almost for a moment, the steam wrapped the ghost doll's body. In an instant, the ghost doll that had raised its arm suddenly froze slightly, as if it was under control. Fatty Lao Pao's face was overjoyed. His ability was very restrained against Spectre, and every mission was almost always tried and tested. It seems there is no problem this time. Just give him 10 seconds. No, even if it is only 5 seconds, his partner can directly detain the drowned ghost. However, the smile on his face just came to an abrupt end. The ghost doll, which had already been controlled, was only stagnant for a moment, and his hands fell towards the front again. No, Lao Lu, hurry up. Although he didn't know what was going to happen, Fatty Lao Pao's intuition told him that it was definitely not what he wanted to see. Dong dong. The running speed of the tall man began to soar, like an evolved zombie, and began to accelerate. However, the ghost doll was too close after all. He just ran a few steps, and the ghost doll put his hands on the drowned ghost effortlessly. A strange wave suddenly appeared, and the hugged drowned ghost began to shrink at a speed visible to the naked eye. In the end, as if being hugged by a ghost doll into his body, he disappeared completely. How is this possible? Fatty Lao Pao exclaimed, never expecting such a change to happen. Disappeared out of thin air. How did you do that? That ghost puppet is not only unaffected by his ability, but can also easily imprison Li Ghost. An unprecedented danger emerged from the ghost doll's body. Fatty Lao Pao knows how tough this ghost doll is, no matter how slow his reaction is. Moreover, from beginning to end, the ghost rider wearing the blood-stained mask had no intention of stopping them in the slightest. As if he had known they would fail. Or, he didn't bother to stop them at all. No matter what it was, Fatty Lao Pao knew that the moment the drowned ghost disappeared, their mission had already failed. With a dry laugh in his mouth, he couldn't help but look at Chen Zan. Haha, misunderstanding, we were just afraid that you won't be able to imprison Li Gui, sir. After all, if this kind of thing is not imprisoned, it will still recover. Fatty Lao Pao started to slowly back away as he spoke. I didn't expect Mr. Spectre to be able to be directly imprisoned, it just saved us the trouble. We won't bother you anymore, farewell. Quote, yes, goodbye. The tall man, who was fierce before, changed his attitude faster than the Sichuan opera. Just said a word, pulled the body bag, turned around and left. However, the 2 of them had just walked a few steps when they heard Chen Zan smile slightly. And many more. The 2 of them stiffened. The 2 of you just left, don't you take me too seriously? Or do you think you have the confidence to escape my ability? Chen Zan's calm words, but at this moment, were like a life-threatening magic sound, which made both of them tremble. At the bottom of the deep artificial lake, Chen Zan in a black trench coat and bowler hat stood there. The blood-stained pure white mask is eerie and mysterious. The strange tone that came out from under the mask made the 2 of them stiff at the moment. Aha, what do you want, sir, you can say it. Fatty Lao Pao's eyes narrowed, but he didn't do anything, but said with a smile. You guys just shot my ghost puppet. Although there is no problem, don't you want to compensate me for a little loss? Chen Zan glanced between the fat man and the tall man. There was an unmistakable hint of doubt in the plain words. That feeling, it seems that as long as the other party disagrees a little bit, he will directly act to obliterate the other party. The tall man next to him glanced at this. His corpse-like arm was about to be raised, but was stopped by the fat man next to him. Cold sweat appeared on Fatty Lao Pao's forehead. I don't know if it was an illusion. He always felt that this young man with a blood-stained mask was more terrifying than he imagined. Although he relies on Shenyu technology, he doesn't want to make extra troubles at this time. Okay, sir, how much do you want? 100 million, per person. Chen Zan thought for a while and raised a finger. Since you are all ghost hunters, I think this fund transfer shouldn't be a problem, right? Best not to tell me I don't have that much money or anything like that. My time is limited, and so is my patience. Quote. After he finished speaking, he stared at the two of them motionless. Fatty Laopao's small eyes flickered, but after 2 seconds, he nodded. Okay, please send me the card number, sir. Chen Zan reported a series of numbers and told the card number to the other party. Not long after, 2 beeps sounded, and 2 transfers of 100 million were directly credited to the account. Seeing the information, Chen Zan smiled slightly, and sure enough, these ghost riders are all rich and earn 200 million for nothing. Seeing that Chen Zan had received the money, Fatty Laopao laughed dryly and said to Chen Zan. Well, the money has been received, sir, let's go. Yes, let's go. Chen Zan seemed to only care about the money in his hand, and said casually without even raising his head. Walk. With permission, Fatty Laopao and the tall man looked at each other, no longer hesitated, turned around and left. Pharaoh, this 100 million money will be given if you give it. As he walked, the tall man's low and cold voice sounded beside Fatty Laopao's ear. What can I do if I don't give it? Fatty Laopao is bloated, but the speed under his feet is not slow. Don't worry, wait until we go back first and report to the postdoctoral fellow before we think of a solution. Do you really think that my Shenyu technology money is so easy to get? Quote. Hey, I just said you can't. The tall man laughed twice, as if he felt that this was the style of Laopao Fatty. However, before he finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. Do you hear? It seems like there are footsteps. Footsteps. Fatty Laopao kept going under his feet, but his speed became faster, and at the same time he listened. Sure enough, I heard a pair of leather shoes stepping on the ground behind me, making a crisp sound. Da da, da da. Hearing the voice, his heart skipped a beat, and an unprecedented sense of tension prompted him to look back suddenly. However, there was no one behind him, and he could even see Chen Zan wearing a blood-stained mask not far away, still standing there, without even looking at him. Wait, no, where's the ghost doll? Fatty Laopao suddenly exclaimed, feeling that something was wrong. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw the tall man beside him suddenly stop. He glanced at it, and suddenly found in horror that the ghost doll was standing in front of the tall man at some point. The ghost doll, who is only half a meter tall, is holding a long black tulle dress in both hands. Below the skirt, a pair of mini blood red high heels were revealed. The sound of footsteps just now came from the high heels. Save me, ah. The tall man only said 2 words, and a scream came out of his mouth. His feet began to twist and smash strangely, and the whole person fell to the ground as if cursed. Dead, dead. When Fatty Laopao saw the man who had completely turned into a corpse, he turned his head in horror and said, You are not trustworthy, and you promised to let us go. As he said that, he couldn't care whether he used too much power of Spectre in a short period of time. With a grasp of both hands, all the smoldering bubbles on the arms were instantly shattered. The hot pus started to splash towards the ghost doll. Although he knew that the other party was immune to his ghost ability, he didn't care much anymore. However, just after the pus fell, it was directly absorbed by the ghost doll. Next moment, she didn't know when there was a black ball in her hand, and then she patted the ground. Snapped, snapped. The crisp sound of hitting the ball made Fatty Laopao look over involuntarily. How much ability do you have? How is it possible? As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly felt his body tremble, and his head rolled off his neck with a grunt. Chen Zan looked at this scene blankly at this time. If the fat man just now didn't speak, he might be able to escape the attack of the scalp ball. But unfortunately, his instinctive words just happened to trigger the killing rule of human scalp balls. Even the ghost masters couldn't resist. I said to let you go, but it didn't. Chen Zan walked over to the 2 corpses and whispered to himself. I don't know if it was his own delusion, but after he became a ghost rider, his personality became much more indifferent than before. This is also because of the existence of the system, which reduces the influence of this kind of controlling ghosts. It is conceivable how much the characters and minds of these ghost riders who simply control the ghosts will be affected. So, from the moment the other party was ready to snatch, Chenzan did not intend to let them go. However, there is still a new problem to face now, that is, the recovery of Spectre. Just as the two ghost riders died, within seconds, Chenzan noticed that the body of the tall man began to move. The thin gray coat that was originally worn actually began to decay at a speed visible to the naked eye. It seems to be buried in the ground without knowing how many years have passed, and it is extremely tattered. The exposed skin began to turn pale, but then, as the bones twisted, a large bag swelled up from the back of the tall man. The bag got bigger and bigger, and finally formed a human head. This human head is extremely rotten, and the flesh and blood on his face has almost fallen off, leaving only Senbai's bones. But its skeleton is unusually large, and at first glance it should be a tall ghost. The appearance of the human head has only just begun. In just a short time, most of the skeleton bones can be easily drilled under the head. At this time, Chenzan just discovered that this should be regarded as a tall ghost. In other words, a strong ghost. Every person who is leaned over by the ghost will grow taller unconsciously, until their body can't bear the height and weight of the ghost, they will recover completely. And the effect obtained by controlling this specter is to strengthen one's own body. Strength, speed, will increase. Especially strength growth. Can you still swallow it? Chenzan suddenly looked at the ghost doll who was slapping the ball, but the ghost doll did not respond. Chenzan guessed that although the ghost doll is an S-class ghost, it takes a certain amount of time to digest each ghost it swallows. But the ghost doll can't do it, he has other ways. Scoff. After the tall specter climbed out of the man's back completely, he raised his head and looked at Chenzan with empty eyes. Obviously, he needs to find the next human as his goal. However, before it could move, Chenzan took off his top hat and shook it slightly. Swish. There was a burst of suction from the dark hole in the hood, and the ghost skeleton was directly sucked in. On the other hand, after Fatty Laopao died, Laopao all over his body began to rise wildly and break fast. As the boiling pus began to flow out of the body, it continued to spread towards the surrounding as if there was life. Is pus a specter? Chenzan waved his top hat thoughtfully, and put all the pus in it, and sure enough, only Fatty's unrecognizable corpse was left. For the time being, these two ghosts were stored in the ghost hat, and Chenzan also put away the ghost doll. Just as the ghost doll's front feet disappeared, a series of footsteps came from behind the back feet. Chenzan turned back and saw Cao Feng, Chen Ruoqing and Zhang Qing hurried over. Are you here to clean up the battlefield? Chenzan's voice was a little joking, and as expected in the movie, no one came out until the battle was over. This is the drowned ghost. Cao Feng ran a little out of breath, leaning on his knees, and looked at the two unrecognizable corpses. No, Chenzan said lightly, I killed the two of them. I heard that they were the people who controlled the technology. Shenyu technology. Zhang Qing's expression changed and he exclaimed. Damn, have they all penetrated to this point? Chenzan's expression changed, and he asked calmly, do you know Shenyu technology? Chenzan saved their lives, but Zhang Qing did not hide it. Shenyu Technology is said to be a non-governmental organization of ghost controllers established abroad. They have huge financial and resource support behind them. He claims to be the god who controls the ghosts. It has always been active in the southeastern countries. Quote. Zhang Qing frowned. Our country has always been very alert to Shenyu Technology, and has been preventing them from entering the country. I didn't expect them to infiltrate. I see. Chenzan nodded slightly, turned his head to look at Chen Ruoqing, and found that Li Gui's ability didn't matter for the time being, so he retracted his gaze. It's over to you here. After speaking, he turned his head and walked towards the distance. Da. The footsteps sounded a few times, and the figure actually appeared several meters away, and disappeared completely after a while. This is the ability of the ghost embroidered shoes that he just borrowed from the ghost doll, and found that it is quite useful, at least he walks a lot faster. And he borrowed abilities through ghost dolls, as long as it wasn't too much, he wouldn't be affected by Spectre. Bravo! Chen Ruoking looked at the direction in which Chen Zan disappeared, and a look of reverence appeared on his face. When can I be as powerful as my predecessors? Haha, Ruo Qing, you think a little too much. Cao Feng next to him couldn't help but said, do you know how many ghost abilities that senior used just now? How many? Chen Ruoking asked subconsciously. His voice alone can suppress the influence of drowned ghosts and ghosts on our minds. This is a kind of thing. Cao Feng snapped his fingers and said, before in the corpse water, I seem to have seen him take off his top hat. That top hat must have the ability to fight against the specter, or it is a specter itself. This is the second. Coupled with his ability to leave just now, this is the third type. 3 completely different abilities mean that there are at least 3 specters on him. Quote. Cao Feng said solemnly, these are not enough, my intuition tells me that he may have other abilities. Otherwise, the 2 spies of Shenyu technology could not have been killed so easily. Quote. That's right. Suddenly, Zhang Qing, who was examining the corpse next to him, stood up. Preliminary judgment, these 2 are Li Fei, the scalding ghost, and Lu Zhaoshan, the tall ghost. He is also a folk ghost rider with some names near Xiadu, but he didn't expect to become a spy of Shenyu technology now. Quote. There was a little emotion in Zhang Qing's tone. The 2 ghost riders, one is weird in melee combat, and the other is infected at a distance, and it can be said that they cooperate very well. Judging from the traces around, they didn't hold on for 3 seconds, and they were solved by the senior. Quote. So smart. This time, Cao Feng was completely shocked. More than. Zhang Qing shook his head, suddenly pointed at the 2 motionless corpses and said, don't you see any other problems besides this? Corpse. Cao Feng was puzzled for a moment, and suddenly exclaimed, Captain, are you saying that Spectre has not recovered yet? No, it has recovered, but it was solved by that senior. The shock in Zhang Qing's eyes was completely revealed at this moment. He didn't see that Chen Zan was carrying any equipment to imprison the ghosts, including the drowned ghost. There were only 3 ghosts just now. But these 3 ghosts, he has been looking around for a long time, where is the slightest shadow appearing? This shows what? This means that the other party detained and took away all the 3 specters in less than a minute. And the corpse water in the artificial lake has also completely dried up. Such a method, even if he has never heard of a top ghost rider in the headquarters, can do it. No, this matter must be reported back. Zhang Qing said to himself, there is a suspected S-rank ghost rider in Tianai City, which is also a matter of concern to Xiadu. He suddenly glanced at Chen Ruoking, who was still in adoration. Fortunately, this senior seems to be paying some attention to Chen Ruoking. At least for now, it is not purely malicious. What? You said that there is a civilian S-level ghost rider in Tianai City. Xiadu, Ghost Rider Headquarters, Deputy Minister's Office. The Deputy Minister with thick eyebrows and big eyes and a face with Chinese characters, Lu Pingchuan slammed the table. Zhang Qing, this is not a joke, are you sure? Since Spectre's recovery, the Ghost Rider Headquarters has also divided the Ghost Rider's strength. A Ghost Rider who can be rated S-rank, but a powerful being with the ability to handle S-rank supernatural events, is also called a guardian, meaning the existence of guarding one side. I cannot confirm, Zhang Qing said honestly. In terms of the strength of that gentleman, he should have reached A-level combat power, but considering the mystery behind him and the extent to which he is suspected to be able to control more than 4 ghosts, I guess that he was an S-level ghost control. By 4 ghosts, Lu Pingchuan stared. If it's really according to what you said, this kind of existence can indeed be called 4 ghosts. In addition to those few existences, the captain-level ghost riders can generally only control up to 3 ghosts. Quote. After pondering for a moment, he suddenly said, Zhang Qing, can you contact this mysterious ghost rider now? Cannot. Zhang Qing shook his head. I only know that he seems to be more concerned about Chen Ruoking, a new player under my command, who has rescued him once before. Oh, Lu Pingchuan raised his brows, immediately raised Chen Ruoking's treatment level. Judging from his performance, he shouldn't be too hostile to our official Sha Kingdom ghost hunter. This opportunity must be seized. Quote, clear. Zhang Qing bowed. Now that there are more and more ghosts recovering, it is better to be able to win over such a strong man. But just as he was about to leave, he heard Lu Pingchuan hurriedly stopped him. And many more. Minister Liu, establish a ghostwriter file for this mysterious powerhouse. Lu Pingchuan thought for a while. The level is almost S level, code name, gentleman. A bowler hat, plus a trench coat, and a blood-stained mask always feels like a gentleman from the Old West. Zhang Qing thought about it and felt that the code name was indeed appropriate. Yes. In Happiness Community, Chen Zan sat on the sofa and called Zhu Pengcheng. Hey, Mr. Chen, are you back so soon? Zhu Pengcheng seemed to have been standing by the phone, and he picked it up as soon as it rang. Well, I'll be back when the matter is settled. Chen Zan said casually. What, so fast? Zhu Pengcheng exclaimed. His understanding of Chen Zan was raised to a whole new level. He had heard that Zhou Tai, who released the news, said that it took 2 days for the previous wave of people to go, and there was no solution. But now, how long has Chen Zan been gone? A couple of hours. Thinking of this, he felt more and more that he was looking at the right person. What, is it fast? Chen Zan asked back. No, I'm really surprised. Zhu Pengcheng quickly explained. Mr. Chen, I will contact Zhou Tai and send someone to take over his gold. Well, yes. Chen Zan remembered that Zhou Tai didn't seem to be in Tianai City, but was doing business in the southern magic capital. According to the current gold price, the gold worth 500 million should be around 500 kilograms. Although a little less, Chen Zan felt he could try to build a gold-plated safe house. This safe house is not for him, but for his sister. In case of encountering any powerful supernatural beings in the future, he can take care of it comprehensively, and he can completely let her hide in the safe house. Of course, all of this is an afterthought, provided that the gold is brought back first. In less than a few minutes, Chen Zan hadn't made a move when suddenly the phone rang again. Chen Zan saw that it was actually Zhu Pengcheng who was calling. As soon as it was connected, Zhu Pengcheng's slightly frightened voice came from the other end of the phone. Chen, Mr. Chen, over Zhou Tai. Chen Zan raised his brows. Did something go wrong? Yes. Zhu Pengcheng wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. That Zhou Tai said that although this incident has been resolved, too many people died and the impact was too great, and his real estate may not be able to be sold. So only half of what we're getting paid. Quote, in an instant, Zhu Pengcheng felt that the atmosphere on the other end of the phone suddenly solidified, as if there was an ice cold passing through the microphone. For a moment, only Chen Zan's voice without the slightest emotion was heard. He wants to default. No, he said that the other half uses the entire Dayu villa to pay. Zhu Pengcheng explained. He said that the villa is worth more than 1 billion yuan, and we earned it for us. Humph. Chen Zan snorted coldly. How dare you talk to me about the value of a villa that cannot be sold? Although when he came back from Tianai City before, he felt that the other party might have a problem. After all, so many people have died, and it is impossible to cover them up. In this way, if you want to sell, it may take a long time for public relations. Hearing that Chen Zan was unhappy, Zhu Pengcheng quickly apologized. I'm sorry, Mr. Chen, it's my incompetence, I'll contact him. No need. Chen Zan refused. It's not your fault, you don't need to apologize. Well, then this deal. Continue the transaction. First, let someone take over half of the gold and the villa. By the way, help me collect all the information about Zhou Tai in the past 2 days. Collect information. Zhu Pengcheng's heart skipped a beat. Mr. Chen, what do you think? Since he wants to save half of the gold, then the other half will be lost with his life. After speaking, Chen Zan hung up the phone directly. Take your life. Zhu Pengcheng's eyes widened, and his heart was shaking. He had previously guessed that Chen Zan would not give up on this matter, but he did not expect it to be so serious. In an instant, he suddenly realized that the way and thinking of the Ghost Riders to deal with things has been greatly different from before. It's dangerous. Cold sweat dripped down Zhu Pengcheng's face one after another, while the female secretary next to him looked at him with concern. What's wrong, Zhu Dong? It's nothing. Thanks to this Zhou Tai, I can see Mr. Chen's character clearly. Zhu Pengcheng shook his head and immediately said, Go, immediately investigate all the information about Zhou Tai, including background, family, industry, etc. Also, what are the stock prices of the listed companies he controls now? Let the finance department prepare a lot of money for me, even if you add leverage, you will be ready to sell. As a business tycoon, Zhu Pengcheng keenly found an opportunity to make a fortune. Once Zhou Tai dies, the stock prices of all his holding companies will absolutely plummet. At that time, he can see the opportunity to buy dips in time. Maybe you can also easily take over most of the other party's assets. Although this is a bit risky, Zhu Pengcheng wants to give it a shot. Because he knows that only by showing enough value can he be valued by Chen Zan. Otherwise, maybe at some point, his identity will be replaced by someone else. Naturally, Chen Zan didn't know Zhu Pengcheng's plan. After hanging up, he sensed the state of the ghost hat. So far, there have been scalding ghosts inside, as well as 2 serious ghosts, the skeleton ghost. Other than that was the corpse water from the drowned ghost that he had sucked dry. Among the 3, the skeleton ghost has the shortest detention time, at most 2 days. And the scalding ghost is a little longer, but the longest is a vast amount of corpse water. Chen Zan feels that these corpse waters can be placed in them because they are already unowned, and they are only contaminated with supernatural powers. He tried it, and there is no way for an item with no supernatural power to be mounted by a ghost hat. He released the ghost doll and found that after several hours of digestion, he finally devoured the drowned ghost completely. Similarly, now ghost dolls can already master the ability to drown ghosts. It even inherited the ghost domain of the other party. Chen Zan called it the ghoul domain. However, this kind of ghost realm has certain restrictions, and it needs to be easily cast in places with abundant water or water vapor. Instead of devouring the corpse water to the ghost doll, Chen Zan chose to let it devour the skeleton ghost first. After devouring it, Chen Zan strangely discovered that the original height of the ghost doll had actually started to rise out of thin air. From half a meter to 1 meter just stopped. At the same time, he also received a strong feedback from the ghost doll. Feel your body stronger than ever. He tried it and found that he could easily lift the double-door refrigerator with one hand. This achievement made Chen Zan quite happy. After all, most of the ghost riders were weak due to the torture of the ghost. Being able to strengthen oneself, at least in terms of self-protection and physical strength, has no small benefits. Putting away the ghost doll again, Chen Zan got up and went to the market to buy vegetables. According to his guess, Chen Ruoqing, who solved the drowned ghost incident, should be able to come back tonight. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Chen Zan prepared 4 dishes and 1 soup, and when the last soup was left, the door opened at this time. As soon as the door opened, a graceful figure wrapped in a black leather jacket rushed in excitedly. "Brother, I'm back, hee hee." Chen Ruoqing's unconcealed laughter made Chen Zan look up from the kitchen. "Yo, this is a good job done," and it was praised. "Wow, brother, how did you know?" Chen Ruoqing exclaimed, "But it's better than what you said, because we solved 2 supernatural incidents, and I was outstanding. The headquarters specially decided to upgrade my benefits to 3 levels in a row, so I don't have to worry about wages in the future." Quote. As she saw the 4 dishes on the table, she immediately screamed. "Ah, sweet and sour pork ribs, fusho elbow, crab yellow shark fin, and lotus seeds. Brother, you robbed the bank. How extravagant. Hee hee, I made a big business and made several hundred million, of course I can have a luxury." Chen Zan said with a smile. "Several hundred million. Classmate Chen Zan, you're going too far now. You don't even make drafts for bragging." Chen Ruo washed her hands lightly, and immediately sat down at the table, posing like a primary school student waiting for dinner. "Really?" Chen Zan put the soup bowl on the table. "I went to solve a paranormal incident this time, in exchange for 500 million. Puff. An elbow in Chen Ruoqing's mouth almost spit out. "Okay, brother, you can just say that the drowned ghost in Tianai City is yours to deal with." "It's me." Chen Zan also sat down at the dining table and poured soup for his sister. "Hey, brother, you can't lie to me about this," Chen Ruoqing said proudly. "This time I saw with my own eyes the hand of that senior, that is a quasi-S-rank ghost hunter, a powerful existence codenamed Gentleman." The more she spoke, the more excited she said, "That senior helped me suppress Spectre's recovery before." Codename Gentleman. Chen Zan was stunned for a moment, then suddenly shook his head. "Not appropriate, not a gentleman at all." What did you say? Chen Ruoking drank the soup and asked with a large elbow in her mouth. Nothing to eat. Chen Zan took a bite, but I really made a lot of money. I'm going to live in another place after a while. You can tell me what you like. After Chen Zan planned to accept Zhou Tai's Deu Villa, he could move there. After all, Tianai City is not far from Xiadu, and aside from supernatural events, the environment and level of Deu Villa are indeed top-notch. As for others who dare not live, how could he, the ghost rider who solved the drowned ghost, dare not? Okay, I like villas, single houses, you can buy them directly. Chen Ruoking didn't believe Chen Zan's words at all, and just picked the most exaggerated statement. Okay, Chen Zan nodded, I'll give you a set then. Okay, that's it, ooh, it's delicious. Chen Ruoking nibbled on a large piece of spare ribs and said vaguely, by the way, brother, the dean called me earlier and said that we should go back for dinner on the weekend. Ping'an Orphanage. Chen Zan's eyes flashed. He and his sister lost their parents when they were young. They had no other relatives at that time, so they were sent to the Ping'an Welfare Center on the outskirts of Xiadu to grow up. The dean's grandmother has always been very kind to them, and she only goes back to see it on weekends these years. I might have a mission, and I don't have time to pass, so you can go for me this week. Chen Ruo thought for a while and added, okay, I see. After the meal, the brothers and sisters chatted and went back to their rooms, ready to rest. In the middle of the night, in an unknown underground laboratory, a tall man wearing a white lab coat and black-rimmed glasses had just put down his work and walked out of the laboratory. A staff member approached in a low voice. Doctor, the operation in Tianai City failed, the two gods are dead, and the revived specter has disappeared. It is suspected that they were detained by the official ghost control of Sha. Yes, a faint smile appeared on the face of the man called the doctor. This result does not seem surprising. The drowned ghost has been solved in a week, and the efficiency of the ghost controllers in the Sha Kingdom is just that. Listening to the doctor's tone, there seems to be a hint of disappointment. After pondering for a moment, he looked at the staff next to him. Erase all information about these two people and remove them from the company. We have already done. The man said directly, Doctor, but before deleting the information, it was discovered that the two divine envoys had transferred 200 million to the same account before they died, and the relevant information has been sent to your mailbox. Well, I see. The doctor nodded slightly, and suddenly a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he hooked the staff. The staff member thought that the doctor had given orders, and subconsciously approached. Who knows, the doctor suddenly raised his arm and grabbed the opponent's neck. A majestic force suddenly struck, causing the staff member to widen his eyes and panic. Bo, ho, doctor, facing the struggle of the staff, the doctor's eyes did not fluctuate at all, but still smiled. Remember, those useless wastes are not worthy of the title of Divine Master. On the white and pale palm, suddenly withered yellow tentacles drilled out from under the skin, like a moving maggot, piercing into its eyeballs in the staff's terrified eyes. What? The screams resounded outside the door of the entire laboratory, but many researchers turned a deaf ear to it, as if they had not heard it at all. More and more tentacles appeared, piercing into each other's eyeballs, cheeks, and even heads one after another. Soon, the skin of the staff member began to be gray and decayed, and the corpse spots of the big fight began to emerge. The whole person seemed to be rotting, until the doctor let go, and he fell to the ground and turned into a foul-smelling, skinny skeleton. The doctor withdrew his gaze, turned his head and pushed open the door of the laboratory again. He walked back to his desk and sat down, turned on his computer, and found an email in his email. Soon, a document appeared in front of his eyes. Xiadu, Chen Zan. After reading a sentence softly, a smile appeared on the corner of the doctor's mouth. Interesting, my sister is a ghost rider, it seems that this big brother is not easy. Suddenly, the palm of his hand sliding the mouse paused slightly. Ping'an Orphanage, 18 years ago. It seems like a coincidence. The doctor seemed to have thought of something, and the smile on his face became even stronger. It's really easy. I found it so quickly, hee hee. Open black lens bracket ding. The check-in time is refreshed, does the host check in? Close black lens bracket. The next morning, the moment Chen Zan opened his eyes, the system's prompt sounded. Sign in. Although it is still a day away from the first weekly signing, Chen Zan is still looking forward to the 6th signing. Open black lens bracket ding. The sign-in is successful. Congratulations to the host for getting the rewards. Spectre Puzzle, A-Level Ghost, Ghost Gloves. Close black lens bracket. Ghost gloves. The more dexterous the hands are, the more careful care is needed, so it is both a protection and an aid. In addition to its due flexibility, it can also resist the attacks of the ghosts. Chen Zan stretched out his hand and found a pair of pale yellow gloves that were as thin as silk in his palm. But when he was stroking carefully, a thought suddenly occurred to him. This should not be an ordinary material, but a piece of human skin. Human leather gloves. Chen Zan took it in front of him and smelled it, and he could even smell a faint corpse odor. He stretched out his hand to put on the 2 gloves, and the gloves immediately fit on his palm just right. And there is no sense of restraint, just like not wearing it. Chen Zan moved his fingers and felt that the frequency of his fingers shaking had increased to a dozen times more than before. If your fingers vibrate at this speed, no cave can't stand it. Depressing this weird thought in his head, Chen Zan felt that the glove had other functions that needed to be further developed. Is it another ghost puzzle? Looking at the ghost gloves on his palm, Chen Zan quickly got up and put on all the ghost windbreaker and ghost hat. However, his intuition told him that the ghost puzzle was not complete. Likewise, if the League Way puzzle is complete, he feels that his original ability will be greatly improved. Just as Chen Zan was thinking about it, Chen Ruoking's voice suddenly came from outside the door. Brother, I'm leaving for work first, don't forget to go to the orphanage. As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a slam on the door, and he had obviously left. Putting all the items in the ghost hat, Chen Zan simply ate breakfast and left the happy community with the hat. Although the orphanage was a little far away, Chen Zan didn't plan to drive there in a luxury car. The dean's grandma kept telling them to be simple, and if they really wanted to drive, they might even be scolded. More than an hour later, when Chen Zan got off the bus, he saw from a distance the grizzled-haired grandma of the dean who was leaning on a walking stick and waved to him with a smile on his face. Chen Zan, come and show grandma, he's thinner, whiter, and more handsome, hee. The dean's grandmother took Chen Zan's hand, touched it up and down and looked at it carefully, before saying with a smile. When she smiled, the wrinkles on her face were crowded together, looking very kind. Hey, what about that girl Ruo Qing? Why didn't you come? Just after saying a few words, she turned to look and asked suddenly. If you're busy with work, you won't have time to come this week. Chen Zan said with a smile. In his memory, the dean's grandmother had always been shrewd and capable, but looking at her trembling body now leaning on crutches, she suddenly felt a little emotional. Chen Zan suddenly looked at himself, and he found that since the system was in place, the power of Li Gui's feedback made his body not only did not deteriorate in the slightest, but instead became younger and stronger. Does this mean that if you don't die at the hands of other ghosts, you can live for a long time? No, not to live long, but to break the confinement of the existing human lifespan. Snapped. Chen Zan's thoughts were interrupted by his grandma's slap, and the dean's grandma slapped him hard on the shoulder and said with a displeased face. You are a big brother, how can you let your sister work? It should be your responsibility to make money. Cough cough. This is what she wants to go. Chen Zan pretended to be in pain and rubbed his arm. Grandma, you are almost 70 years old, yet you are still so strong. As he said that, he took the dean's grandmother's arm and walked into the orphanage. The dean's grandma couldn't beat him, and she couldn't help complaining as she walked. You don't look like much, how will you find a girlfriend then? Grandma, don't talk about me, the orphanage has been doing well recently, right? How many children are there? Chen Zan quickly changed the subject. Yes, 147 children, 48 boys, 99 girls, Grandma remembers it clearly. As soon as she mentioned her work, Grandma Dean's face burst into a smug smile. So much. Chen Zan glanced at some of the old 7-story buildings in the orphanage. Then do you want me to pay for the orphanage to repair it? You see, the walls have fallen off. I don't need you, your money is reserved for marrying a daughter-in-law in the future. The dean's grandma seemed to fall into memory and couldn't help but said, only the two of you have a family and a business, and you can be worthy of the entrustment of that gentleman. Entrust. Chen Zan's expression suddenly changed, and he couldn't help asking. Grandma, who is the gentleman? Do you remember? I don't remember. The dean's grandma shook her head. 18 years ago, he brought you and your sister here with sunglasses and a raincoat, and gave me a sum of money. Let me take good care of you, and then leave. It will be 18 years after leaving. Quote. Then, do you know the identity of that person? Even a little bit of relevant information will do. Chen Zan felt that there was a hidden existence he didn't know about. 18 years ago, he was only 5 years old, his sister was only 2 years old, and many of his memories were blurred. Originally, Chen Zan always thought that his parents died unexpectedly, but now it always feels that there are some mysteries shrouded in it. It's been so long, how can Grandma remember? Grandma Dean shook her head slightly, but suddenly remembered something. By the way, I remember when he left, you cried and called him Dad. Dad. Chen Zan's pupils shrank, and his heart was filled with waves. Is my father dead? What happened 18 years ago? Let him send us to Ping an orphanage. In fact, it is not that Chen Zan has not checked his parents' information over the years. But he used all the resources he could use and found no trace. It could even be said that the news of his parents seemed to evaporate out of thin air. The only thing that can be found is that the two brothers and sisters grew up in the Ping an Welfare Institute. After pondering for a moment, Chen Zan did not come to a conclusion, and he found that there should be no valuable information from the dean's grandma. At this moment, a group of children gathered around and greeted Chen Zan one after another. Seeing the children, Chen Zan's calm face also flashed a smile, and he played with them. From morning to noon and then to night, Chen Zan played the role of a big brother and mingled with many children. Until night fell, all the children went to bed at 9 o'clock on time. And Chen Zan finally rested in the dean's office on the first floor. In addition to the desk, there is also a bunk bed, which is also where the dean usually rests. Chen Zan let out a sigh of relief. Grandma, these little guys have really good energy. Haha, you were like this when you were young. The dean's grandmother handed him a glass of water with a smile and sat down at the table. I remember at that time, you and your sister were very naughty and got dirty outside all day. Really, I don't have any. Just as Chen Zan was about to retort, he suddenly heard a voice coming from the corridor outside the house. Boom, boom. The sound was like the sound of footsteps, but it was very heavy, and there was a rubbing sound mixed in. It's like a person walking slowly in the corridor with a heavy object on his back. What's that sound? Chen Zan suddenly said. Idiot, that's the voice of the patrolling security guard. The dean's grandma didn't seem to be surprised by this, but said to herself, I told you when I was a child that after 9 o'clock in the evening, there will be security patrols and you must not go out. Can't go out. Chen Zan frowned, as if remembering his grandmother's advice that after 9 o'clock, he could not go out of the room. But, why do I feel a ghostly breath? An absurd thought suddenly appeared in Chen Zan's mind. Could it be that the security guard patrolling outside is a ghost? Impossible. Chen Zan denied in his heart. Judging from Grandma's reaction, it seems that the voice of the security patrol has already existed. If it really is a ghost, it is impossible to be at peace with each other. Boom, boom. The sound is getting farther and farther, and it seems that it has begun to follow the stairs upstairs. The whole orphanage was terribly quiet, and there seemed to be a palpitating aura emerging. But fortunately, apart from this sound, no other anomalies appeared. Just when he was thinking about whether to go out and have a look, suddenly a scream came from upstairs. What? The sudden cry made the originally calm grandma of the dean exclaimed. It's Xiao Wen, how dare she run out? With a worried look on her face, she grabbed the flashlight beside her and walked out. Before leaving, he told Chen Zan, take it with you in your room and don't come out to know. Can't you really go out? Of course Chen Zan would not listen to the grandmother's words. He took off the ghost hat and put on the ghost windbreaker and ghost gloves. He was afraid that the children would not wear ghost masks. Then he opened the door and walked out. In the corridor, the lights were dim, it was only 9 o'clock in the evening, but there was a dead silence that fell into the middle of the night. And the figure of the dean's grandmother before also disappeared in the corridor. Xiao Wen should be on the 3rd floor. After speaking to himself, Chen Zan walked towards the third floor. But when he went up to the second floor, he suddenly found that the footsteps of the security patrols that originally existed in the corridor had completely disappeared. This made him frown. Is it because I attracted the attention of the security? This thought just sounded, and suddenly a scream came. What? It's Grandma Dean. Chen Zan's complexion changed, and he instantly borrowed the ability of ghost-embroidered shoes. With a snap, his figure disappeared from the spot. In just 2 seconds, he appeared at the entrance of the corridor on the third floor. Under the flickering lights, Chen Zan saw a bloody scene. The rickety old grandmother of the dean had fallen into a pool of blood at some point. Beside her, a figure dressed in an old navy blue security guard turned his back to Chen Zan, and held a heavy and huge axe high in his hand. Then hit the grandmother again. Blood and broken minced meat and bone splattered the walls under the light. Seeing this scene, Chen Zan had a hint of anger, but not much, but more cautious. He can be sure that the security guard who did it is a serious ghost. But why is this devil doing it? For many years, the dean's grandmother has been safe and sound. How could she be killed by the ghost security guard? Also, what happened to Xiaowen's scream just now? At this moment, there was the sound of the door opening, and the children who had fallen asleep on the entire third floor seemed to be awakened by successive screams, and they were curious to open the door to check. Seeing this scene, Chen Zan quickly took out the ghost mask from the ghost hat, put it on his face, and let out a cold drink. Don't come out, close the door. This sound is mixed with the power of the ghost mask, which can directly control the mind of the other party, making it involuntarily follow the instructions of the speaker. Clap clap clap. As Chen Zan's words sounded, the doors of the entire corridor were closed, and no one appeared again. At this moment, the ghost security guard who was wielding an axe suddenly stopped. It turned its head and looked at Chen Zan, as if it had locked on a new target. Laugh, laugh. The axe drew a long bloodstain on the ground and was approaching Chen Zan. Chen Zan didn't leave, but frowned and watched the other party get closer. He is guessing that the ghost security guard's killing rules, the biggest possibility is that as long as he appears in the corridor, he will be attacked by the other party. I don't know if I can stand it. Chen Zan stood silently where he was, wanting to experience the power of this ghost security guard. It's not about being big, it's about having confidence in one's own strength. Moreover, if he really can't stand it, he can let the ghost doll come out to suppress it. Snapped. The ghost guard's footsteps disappeared, and he was standing right in front of Chen Zan. Then the axe, which was covered in rust and blood, was raised and slashed towards Chen Zan. At this moment, Chen Zan suddenly had a feeling of being locked, that is, the axe looked slow, but it couldn't dodge. Ordinary people, at this time, I am afraid that they will be so scared that they dare not move, let alone resist. However, at the moment when the axe fell, Chen Zan's arm raised, his palm nimbly and quickly circumvented the falling axe, and grasped the axe handle below the axe blade. Kaka. Chen Zan frowned, and a force that far surpassed ordinary adult men pressed down from the axe. But in front of Chen Zan, he was stopped abruptly, and despite the burst of power, he couldn't move. The power is great, but acceptable. Even Chen Zan started to use his strength, ready to grab the opponent's axe. Ka ka ka. The two fell into a stalemate like this. If there were other ghost riders present, they would be scared to death by this scene. Just kidding, a person can actually wrestle with Spectre, this is simply subverting cognition. Even Chen Zan was able to take advantage of this stalemate to get close to a large number of ghost security guards. This is an old man's face, covered with corpse spots, and his complexion is ashen. It looks like he has died for an unknown time. A security uniform fits on the body, and the style is a bit old, which is completely out of tune with the current trend. Suddenly, when he saw the right pocket of the security uniform, Chen Zan saw a folded piece of paper with a corner exposed. In that corner, there seems to be this text, but it is not clear. What is this? Chen Zan's complexion changed slightly, and he felt that the note did not belong to the ghost security guard, but was deliberately put in his pocket. So, taking advantage of the stalemate, he reached out and prepared to take it out. However, just as he was about to succeed, his hand suddenly loosened. The ghost security guard who was holding an axe just now disappeared. Chen Zan frowned, showing a thoughtful look. What is this ability? Can't beat and run. Impossible. Spectre should not have this fearful emotion, but an existence that acts according to certain rules. If it's not like this, what is it? Or is it an illusion? No. Chen Zan looked at the dean's grandmother who was still on the ground, but knew that this was not an illusion. He walked to the front and found the direction where the dean's grandmother fell, facing room 304. The door of room 304 was half closed at the moment, as if it had been opened before. It should be the dean's grandma who opened the door to check the situation, so she was attacked by the ghost security guard behind her. Chen Zan made a judgment, but she clearly knows the rules, why didn't she avoid it? It stands to reason that the speed of ghost security is not fast, even ordinary people should be able to react and hide in the room. Quote. Confused, Chen Zan pushed open the door subconsciously, but suddenly his pupils shrank. In the entire room 304, a total of 4 children have all died. Blood flowed all over the place, as if he had just died. And looking at the way they died, they were forcibly grabbed all their scalps, and wherever there was hair on the top of their heads, they were completely bloody. Died without leaving the room. Chen Zan watched this scene without too much fluctuation. After all, compared with the hundreds of thousands of corpses in the artificial lake before, there were not too many people in 4, even if they were only a few years old. Wait, where are they? Chen Zan took a look and found that the girl named Xiaowen was lying in front of the table. There were some daily necessities on the table. The only bright thing was an oval mirror with a stand. The other 3 little girls all died on the bed. Although the location is different, the death status is similar. Chen Zan looked at the vanity mirror and couldn't help but wonder. Is the problem with the mirror? The harsh siren sounded through the Ping'an Welfare Institute in the middle of the night, and the teachers who found the abnormality could not resist the shock and chose to call the police. Chen Zan also resumed his previous identity and did not leave. First, he needs to figure out what information is left on the note inside the ghost security guard's clothes. Maybe it has something to do with him. Second, the sheriff had just told him that if he cooperated with the investigation of the case, he would have to stay in the orphanage temporarily. Feng Team, preliminary judgment, the dean died of a blunt weapon, and it was a sneak attack from behind. A sheriff said suspiciously, and the little girls in the room died of excessive blood loss, and the modus operandi was completely different from the way the dean died. Feng Dui nodded when he heard the words, and then said, have the witnesses' record been made? Did, according to him, saw a man in a security uniform with an axe, and when he tried to stop it, he disappeared. He was the one who called the police. Quote, said the team member lowered his voice, Feng Team, I feel that the witness named Chen Zan may be the murderer. He just came here today, and there is such a murder case. Don't make guesses. The cold-faced Feng Team glared at him, any judgment must be based on evidence. At this moment, the forensic doctor in charge of the inspection came out of room 304, a short woman. Forensic Wu, are there any results? Feng Team asked. Similar to my previous judgment, it should have died from excessive blood loss. Forensic Dr. Wu frowned and said suspiciously, it's strange that they are so young that no one screamed. That's the pain of being pulled off the scalp, and adults can't bear it, it's so strange. Quote, is it strange? Feng Dui's heart jumped when he heard it. For the time being, we will block the scene. I need to report the situation. I'm afraid we can't handle this case. Can't handle it. Forensic Wu and another colleague were stunned. Captain Feng, we can't handle any cases. Supernatural event. Team Feng thought to himself, but didn't say it. He was notified above, and he must report it immediately once there is an abnormal situation. Soon, a car appeared at the door of the Ping'an orphanage, and a tall and slender beauty with long wavy hair and an extremely exaggerated figure stepped down from it. However, this beautiful woman was holding an oversized cigar in her mouth. The cigar was not lit, but just dipped. Her name is Peng Ling, Xiadu Captain Level Ghost Master, code name, Ghost Smoke. As soon as she got off the bus, Team Feng, who had been waiting, stepped forward and briefly explained the situation. Team Peng, what should we do now? Feng Team asked. It's not one ghost, it's 2. Peng Ling said directly, but there is some basis for the ghost security guard's situation, and now it is mainly another one, there is no way to judge how those little girls died. If you can't find the killing rules, maybe someone will continue to be tricked. Quote, As soon as her voice fell, a scream suddenly sounded from the building. What? Not good. Something happened. Pang Ling's expression changed, and she ran over with her long legs. According to the voice, she went straight to the 5th floor, pushed open the door of 507, and a bloody scene appeared. The 4 little girls inside were all dead. Moreover, the death is the same as before, the scalp is torn, the flesh is blurred, and the blood is everywhere. Die again. Pang Ling frowned, but just stood at the door and didn't go in. Team Feng and others who followed were also stopped by her. Don't go in, maybe it will trigger the killing rules. Well, what the hell is going on here? Team Feng looked at this scene angrily. These are 4 fresh lives. They are only a few years old and should have a beautiful life in childhood, but now, they have died inexplicably. Look for any witnesses. Pang Ling did not answer, but asked directly. No, someone next to him replied. We were patrolling at the time, and we rushed over when we heard the sound, but we opened the door and that's it. Leave all room doors open and continue patrolling. Pang Ling pondered for a moment and said directly. Open the door so that you can see what happened. In addition, send someone to transfer the surviving children out of the building first, the sooner the better. From her judgment, the problem must be in the room, not the child. Okay, I'll do it now. Team Feng knew that he had to obey the order at such a time, and immediately turned around and prepared to leave. However, just as he turned around, he suddenly heard a scream resounding from the other side of the corridor. What? At the same time, a surprising scene appeared. A male colleague on patrol happened to see the scene in the door, and saw his eyes widen and his mouth open in horror. But the sound stopped abruptly, and then, his scalp was torn off like an invisible sharp blade. From the beginning to the end, the male colleagues maintained the posture of looking into the door, motionless. Not good. Pang Ling exclaimed and rushed towards it with a quick step. A lighter appeared in her hand from nowhere and lit her cigar directly. The cigar burned, and a corpse-smelling smoke surged out of it and quickly wrapped around her. At this time, she was already standing at the door of the room. She didn't see Spectre appear, but heard a pop, as if something fell on the table. She rushed in, walked into the room and looked around, and finally her eyes fell on the only table by the window. On the table, a black shadow shaped like a wooden comb was slowly disappearing. Wooden comb. Comb your hair. Suddenly, Pang Ling thought of a possibility. Comb your hair in the middle of the night. Perhaps the way this triggers the killing rule is to comb your hair in the room. Mr. Zhou, you said this patrol started 18 years ago. On the other side, Chen Zan was sitting in front of a gray-haired woman, and his pupils could not help shrinking when he heard the other person's answer. Chapter 31. Yes, I think about it, yes, it should have been 18 years ago. The silver-haired teacher Zhou is less than 5 years younger than the dean's grandmother. Because of this love, she has persisted until now. I was only 18 at that time, and I grew up in a welfare home. I still remember what you looked like at that time. Teacher Zhou revealed his memories. You still peed your pants when you were 5 years old. Cough. Teacher Zhou, don't digress. Chen Zan coughed dryly and quickly pulled the topic back. The voice of the security patrol, was it told by the dean's grandmother? Yup. Teacher Zhou nodded. I remember, that day she called us all out, held a meeting, and emphasized several times, saying that you can't go out from 9 o'clock in the evening to 5 o'clock the next day, and run around in the corridor. If you see a security patrol, go back to your room immediately. Quote. Did you say why? Chen Zan asked. I asked. Teacher Zhou recalled, but she didn't say anything, just said that this is the rule that has always been there. Strange, how could there be such a rule before? Last night, I saw the dean walk away casually, even she forgot. Quote. Last night, forgot. Chen Zan did not speak, but fell into contemplation in his mind. Although Teacher Zhou is old, because she has been living in the orphanage, she remembers things about the orphanage more clearly. In this way, the information she said is likely to be true, so there is a problem. Obviously, this was not the case the first day, so why was there a meeting the next day to notify that there would be security patrols? Moreover, he remembered that he did seem to have such a rule when he was a child, and he must not leave the room at this time. It's just that he's been out of the orphanage for so long that he doesn't care. Now, What puzzles Chen Zan the most is that the sound of this patrol happened 18 years ago. 18 years ago, it happened to be the day he and his sister were sent to the orphanage. The disappearing figure was suspected to be his biological father. That is to say, from that day on, Grandma Dean had a very serious rule in her head, so that it has not changed for 18 years. Under what circumstances can it be guaranteed that this rule will be enforced in this way? Wait, is it difficult? Chen Zan's pupils shrank and suddenly thought of a possibility. Rooted in memory. That's right, when a piece of information can be implanted in another person's heart, and it is repeatedly confirmed that it is very important to the other person, then the other person must follow this memory. This kind of anti-scientific theory was originally impossible, but in the context of the resurgence of ghosts, it may not be impossible to do it. If that's the case, then the one most likely to modify Grandma's memory is my father. Chen Zan felt as if he had caught a clue. He modified the memory of the dean's grandmother and made a ghost security guard who only patrols at night in the welfare home. Moreover, this ghost security guard is not for murder, but more like a kind of protection. Quote, who to protect? Chen Zan suddenly thought of himself and his sister, so it is very likely to protect himself and his sister. But why do you need protection? Chen Zan's intuition told him that the information he wanted to obtain was probably related to the note in the ghost security guard's pocket. But for some unknown reason, the ghost security guard has completely disappeared since he blocked it once. Now the corridor is full of people patrolling, and no ghost security has been seen. Just as he hesitated, there was a knock on the door. Who? Chen Zan stopped his thoughts and asked. Hello Mr. Chen, an officer wants to ask you a few questions. Feng Team's voice came from outside the door. Come in. Chen Zan hesitated for a moment, then nodded. The door was pushed open, and a tall and exaggerated beauty walked in with a cigar. Hello Mr. Chen, my name is Peng Ling, can I ask what you just saw? Peng Ling got straight to the point. I said it just now. Chen Zan glanced at her, and suddenly felt the breath of a ghost from the other side, and he was much stronger than the Zhang Qing he had met before. But it doesn't show anything unusual about it. Yes. Peng Ling smiled slightly, but I need to confirm again, especially about the situation in room 304. Shadow of the wooden comb. After a while, Chen Zan shook his head slightly as he listened to Peng Ling's question. I saw only a mirror there, and I didn't see the shadow of a single wooden comb. He suddenly chuckled. Officer Peng, your question is so strange, how could the shadow exist alone? Peng Ling took a deep look at Chen Zan and suddenly smiled. I'm sorry to bother you. The situation is more complicated now. Please don't walk around casually. Okay, thank you. Leaving the room, Team Feng next to him asked in a low voice. Team Peng, could it be him? No, Peng Ling shook her head. I can't feel the slightest ghost master aura in him, this is still a simple supernatural incident. What now? Feng Team asked. Pick up all the children. Since that specter doesn't show up, we'll lead it out. Quit. How? Get someone to brush your hair in the mirror in the room. What? Team Feng's expression changed. Isn't this sending people to death? But there was a hint of coldness in Peng Ling's voice. What? It's better to die alone than to die many people. Besides, if I look at it, I may not be able to die. Anyway, aren't there many prisoners on death row? You quickly mobilize one over here. Quote. Before this, the whole orphanage was emptied, hurry up. At 2 o'clock in the morning of Shen Yiling, an escort car came quickly, and several fully armed soldiers escorted a figure with a hood down. Randomly found a room on the first floor, let him sit in front of the mirror, and untied the handcuffs and headgear. Li Cheng, as long as you complete this task, you can change from a death sentence to 10 years. Remember not to lose the chain. Team Feng said seriously. Don't worry, officer, I'll finish it. A bald-headed man grinned. It was a good deal for such a simple task to be able to reduce the sentence. Originally, he thought he was going to die, but he didn't expect that he would be born out of nowhere. Soon, someone found a wooden comb and vanity mirror and put them on the table. The entire house was emptied in an instant, and only 2 heavily armed soldiers at the door were watching to prevent Li Cheng from escaping. Peng Ling walked in at this time and looked at Li Chengdao. Let's start. Ah, good. Li Cheng was amazed by Peng Ling's figure and beauty, and quickly picked up the wooden comb. At this moment, the whole room fell into a strange silence. Pang Ling and even the two soldiers outside the house were staring at him. Want to see what happens next? In this way, Li Cheng grabbed the wooden comb and put it behind his head, and under everyone's attention, he slowly combed it from top to bottom. Pang Ling lit the cigar, but stared at Li Cheng's palm slowly moving down. Gradually, Li Cheng also seemed to feel that something was wrong, feeling that the task was not really that simple. But since it has been promised, it is impossible to go back on it at this time. He moved down a little bit, and finally finished a brush. Immediately, he turned his head to look at Pang Ling and asked nervously. Sir, am I done? Why not? Pang Ling didn't answer him, but stared at the wooden comb in his hand for a long time, but he didn't expect Spectre to appear. Am I guessing wrong? Pang Ling thought about it in her heart, but she said, it's okay, your mission is over, take it away. Thank you, sir, I really. Li Cheng was overjoyed when he heard it, but before he could finish his words, he stopped abruptly. All the sound suddenly disappeared. I won't let you go, still standing there. Pang Ling said impatiently, and looked at the other party, but suddenly, her pupils shrank, and her expression suddenly solidified. Because at this moment on the table in front of Li Cheng, another blood-red wooden comb appeared unexpectedly at some point. Pat! The wooden comb in Li Cheng's hand fell directly to the ground, but he mechanically picked up the blood-red wooden comb like a puppet. Look in the mirror and start combing your hair. The bright red wooden comb was inserted into the scalp effortlessly, and with just one blow, a large piece of flesh and blood was lifted. Blood was flowing, but Li Cheng didn't notice it, and the movements of his hands continued to comb down. A strange scene happened. Pang Ling felt that she suddenly lost control of her body, her arms also raised, and she began to move towards her head. Not good, people who see it will die too. She screamed badly in her heart, and finally understood how the other children in the room died. It turned out that anyone who saw a ghost combing their hair would also die by combing their hair. The two soldiers at the door had already dropped their weapons and raised their arms mechanically. Before long, they will tear up their scalps like Li Cheng. Hiss. After Li Cheng's first brushing, the scalp at the back of his head was completely torn off, revealing blood-dripping flesh. What's even more weird is that a female-like face appeared on the flesh and blood, with a weird smile on it. Like, what are you waiting for? Comb your hair. Puff puff. The billowing ghost smoke kept rolling around, as if forming a barrier, forcibly isolating Spectre's control. Pang Ling was also complaining at the moment, she felt that she was too careless this time. I thought that the number of deaths was not large, and the horror level of Spectre here is not high, so it should not cause too many problems. Unexpectedly, the other party actually has such a strange killing rule. You're going to die when you see it. Now that she is in the rules, even if she is blocked by ghost smoke, she is almost unable to support her. Kaka. Her arm lifted slowly, making a mechanical twisting sound, but she herself couldn't stop it. Click, click, click. She watched helplessly as her arms were raised above her head, about to fall towards her scalp. But at this moment, a crisp footstep sounded suddenly from the corridor. Pang Ling finally knew now that only one person was really ripped off by the ghost comb, and all the others who saw the ghost comb their hair ripped off their scalps. And now, she is facing such an experience. Fingers lifted uncontrollably and dropped towards the scalp. You can even feel your fingers piercing your hair. If it wasn't for the ghost smoke that enveloped her at the beginning, I'm afraid she wouldn't be able to support it now. Her ghost smoke must use smoke as a medium. But her body is out of control now, and there is no way to release more ghost smoke. Just when she was at a loss, suddenly a clear footstep sounded from the corridor outside the door. Clatter, clatter. The voice only rang twice, and suddenly Pang Ling saw a figure emerge out of thin air in the room. Black trench coat, bowler hat, and the blood-stained mask. Just as the figure appeared, he took a gentle and steady pace and walked towards Li Cheng, who was combing his hair step by step. Who is this? Ignoring the rules of the ghost combing hair. A hint of horror appeared in Pang Ling's heart. Wait, windbreaker, top hat, blood-stained mask. She suddenly thought of a quasi-S-class file that she had just seen recently added to the Ghost Rider headquarters. A gentleman. He is a gentleman. Pang Ling screamed in her heart. They must attach great importance to the quasi-S-class files. The gentleman can fight the ghost realm of the drowned ghost by relying on his own absence of the ghost realm, and it is a terrible existence that is suspected to have controlled the four ghosts. His appearance gave Pang Ling a glimmer of hope. But, can he resist this weird ghost combing his hair? Wearing a mask, Chen Zan walked past Pang Ling step by step, from beginning to end, without even looking at each other. Because he wasn't here to save them. It appeared because Chen Zan saw the wooden comb that the ghost combed his hair. Since even human hair can be combed out, what would happen if it was placed on a ghost? Under the mutual suppression of the ghost comb and the ghost hair, will the sister successfully control the second ghost? But the premise is that he first solves the ghost combing his hair in front of him. Chen Zan took a few steps and stood directly behind Li Chang, looking at the bloody back of his head. There, a strange face made of blood seemed to sense his appearance and was looking towards him. However, with a snap, Chen Zan slapped the bloody face. "Did I let you see me?" The plain words made Pang Ling's heart tremble. If it wasn't for her being controlled now, I'm afraid she would have cried out in surprise. She has seen many powerful ghost riders, but she has never seen one who dares to smoke ghosts directly. In the face of any specter, direct contact carries great danger. However, the gentleman in front of him not only made contact, but even slapped the other side. What is this for? Angry ghosts. Impossible, Li Gui will not have any emotions at all, nor can he be provoked. Before she could dissipate her thoughts, Chen Zan slapped the other person in the face again. Snapped. "You still look at me." Snapped. "Still watching." Clap clap. All right. The grimace disappeared. Pang Ling was shocked to find that the specter's oppression disappeared, and she regained control of her body. Before she could speak, she saw that Chen Zan was holding a blood-colored wooden comb in his gloved palm. The wooden comb twisted and seemed to want to disappear, but it seemed to be suppressed by some force and could not disappear. PFF'd. There were two sounds behind them, and the two warriors had completely died at this moment because they couldn't bear the power of the ghost comb. "Mr. Gentleman, thank you for saving your life." Pang Ling regained her senses, and quickly restrained her arrogance as the captain, with a humble and authentic face. "I'm not saving you." Chen Zan glanced at her, "but if you want to repay me, I don't mind." Pang Ling's heart trembled. If a man saves a woman's life, the best way to repay is to promise him. Looking at Chen Zan wearing a blood-stained mask, she couldn't help but feel a little bulging in her heart. "What does it look like? Handsome or not? Are you old?" The voice doesn't look like a very old age, but what if you take off your clothes and your body is full of corpse spots? There are very few ghost riders who are healthy. Then, "Mr. Gentleman, can you?" Seeing her squeezing like a little girl, Chen Zan said lightly, "I need you to take this back and tell Zhang Qing that this should suit Chen Ruoking." Pang Ling nodded, but suddenly froze again. "Is this the answer Mr. said? If not," Chen Zan looked at her and said strangely, "do you still want to make a promise with your body?" "What?" Pang Ling let out a soft cry, a red glow rose on her pretty face, and she even scolded herself for being shameless in her heart. It turned out to be a fool's errand from beginning to end. No, gentlemen, I have a special detention box here, and I will definitely complete the task. ... A moment later, Chen Zan handed the red ghost wood comb to Pang Ling and put it in a gold locker box. "Remind you, if Chen Ruoking didn't receive this gift, the consequences would not be good," he said lightly, and without waiting for Pang Ling to respond, Chen Zan's figure disappeared in the dark night. When Chen Zan reappeared, he had already returned to the office where the dean's grandma used to be. I looked at the time, it was 4 o'clock in the morning. There's still an hour left before the ghost security patrol ends. Chen Zan thought about it and chose to sign in directly. The first weekly signing might bring him some surprises. Ding! The sign-in is completed. Congratulations to the host for getting the reward. Open black lens bracket ding. The sign-in is completed. Congratulations to the host for getting the reward. S-Class Ghost, Ghost Blood. Ghost blood, a drop of mysterious blood from a nameless person. I don't know the origin of this blood, but it has a very strange function. How strange it is, please experience it by yourself. What kind of weird introduction is this? Chen Zan couldn't help but complained in his heart, and also spread out his hands to accept his reward. A drop of bright red, even red and black blood appeared out of thin air in his palm. This is it. Chen Zan looked at the drop of ghost blood with doubts. The reason why he didn't immediately go to the ghost security guard was to allow himself to complete the weekly signing, hoping to get a strong reward, so as to ensure that he could complete the task. Originally, he wondered if he could directly solve his own ghost puzzle, but he didn't expect the puzzle, and ended up with a drop of ghost blood. What's the use of this? Suddenly, just as his thoughts were tumbling, the drop of ghost blood in his palm trembled and rushed directly under his skin. Chen Zan's expression changed, and he was about to intercept it, but it was too late. In an instant, he felt that his blood was completely combined with the ghost blood, and as the blood circulation circulated, it began to erode all his blood. Oops, what the hell is this? Chen Zan can still forcibly maintain a certain sanity in his mind at this moment, because this is the reward given by the system, so there is no need to worry about the ghost's recovery. But what other effects are attached to the ghost blood, he can't guarantee it. If he turns himself into a ghost, that's not what he wants. For 5 minutes, Chen Zan repeatedly observed his own changes and found that there was no other abnormality except that his skin color was a little paler than before. On the contrary, with the fusion of the ghost blood and his own blood, his body seems to have been completely transformed and become stronger. Chen Zan guessed that he might be able to lift 1 refrigerator with 1 hand before, but now he should be able to lift about 5 refrigerators. Just to increase strength and remodel the body. Chen Zan wondered to himself, if that's the case, the ability of this S-class ghost doesn't seem to be as scary as he imagined. After all, there are many ghosts that don't exist by entities. In other words, their own abilities are not measured against strength and speed, but a terrible rule of killing. No, this ghost blood must have other functions, and strengthening the body must only be incidental. Chen Zan guessed and began to silently sense the ghost blood in his body. Gradually, he seemed to see the bright red ghost blood rushing with the blood, so he began to communicate with his mind. Suddenly, an invisible blood-colored light burst out from the whole body, and it instantly enveloped a 2-meter radius. The air became extremely moist at this moment, but if you look closely, droplets of bright red water droplets start to suspend in the air. No, that's not water droplets, but ghost blood. Swish. Chen Zan suddenly opened his eyes, and finally understood the power of his ghost blood. It's a ghost realm. He had a feeling just now that as long as he was within 2 meters, all living and dead that were contaminated by water droplets were within his own thoughts. And even the specter is subject to his own suppression and even control. Is this the real effect of ghost blood? Chen Zan murmured softly, but excitement flashed in his eyes. When he faced the drowned ghost before, he was quite envious of the other party's ghost realm. Although the ability itself was restrained, if the other party had his own thinking, he could completely escape from the artificial lake before he approached. Moreover, the ghost realm of the drowned ghost has just formed, and it is not perfect. Now, Chen Zan finally has his own ghost domain, which has completely improved his shortcomings. The only thing that makes him a little regretful is that the ghost realm of this ghost blood is too small. A radius of 2 meters, this can only be controlled when the ghost is close to his face, right? Wait, ghost blood is also water, maybe it can absorb corpse water. Chen Zan suddenly had a guess in his heart, just like the drowned ghost increasing the scope of his ghost realm by constantly controlling the rainfall. Maybe ghost blood has a similar effect. After taking a look at the time, Chen Zan continued to try. Taking a drop of corpse water, Chen Zan held it in the palm of his hand with ghost gloves to be on the safe side. Afterwards, with a single thought, the ghost blood ghost domain was once again unfolded. In just an instant, that drop of corpse water disappeared out of thin air, as if it was completely absorbed by the ghost realm. Seeing this scene, Chen Zan grinned. Sure enough. He originally thought that the corpse water would be inhaled into his body and fused directly with his own blood. In that case, his body will definitely have a big problem due to the influence of the corpse water. Even a corpse. But now it seems that the ghost blood should have absorbed the corpse water in a way that he couldn't understand. It didn't have any effect on itself. With this discovery, Chen Zan finally felt relieved, and began to continuously mobilize the corpse water to let his ghost domain begin to absorb it frantically. And his own ghost realm is also constantly absorbing and expanding wildly. 5 meters, 10 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters, 2 kilometers. After all the corpse water was completely absorbed by the ghost blood, Chenzon's ghost realm could actually expand to a range of nearly 10 kilometers. Is it similar to the ghost domain of the drowned ghost before? Chenzon took away the ghost realm and fell into contemplation. If he can find more supernatural things similar to corpse water, will it make the ghost realm improve faster? Don't think about it first, it's more important to do business. Chenzon glanced at the time, only 10 minutes left until 5 o'clock. According to the previous law, after this time, the ghost security guard will stop patrolling, in other words, it will disappear. If Chenzon had to look for it, it would probably be a lot of trouble. Because of the supernatural event, the entire building of the orphanage has been emptied. And Chenzon was originally arranged by everyone to leave here, but he used the ability of ghost shoes to drive back. He walked slowly in the corridor of the whole building, hoping to lead to the appearance of this ghost security guard. However, after walking for a while, Chenzon did not find any trace of the ghost security guard. Isn't it appearing? Then I can only use the ghost domain to find it. Chenzon's thoughts moved as he spoke, and a layer of scarlet light began to spread out from his body toward the surroundings. In an instant, the entire building was enveloped. Fine blood beads appeared in the air, filling every corner of the entire building. Suddenly, Chenzon raised his brows and wondered, "Do not have it?" "No, it's underground." His figure disappeared at once, and when he reappeared, he actually came to a secret basement on the ground floor. In the damp, cramped, and even musty-smelling space, Chenzon's eyes locked on an old cabinet against the wall. Above the cabinet, there is a posthumous photo, and the figure in the posthumous photo is the ghost security guard in the security uniform. Offering a posthumous photo, Chenzon looked at the ghost security guard in the posthumous photo, and he was able to confirm that all this was definitely caused by man. This basement was locked from the inside. In other words, someone arranged everything and didn't want anyone to come in. And the person who can leave without opening the lock after finishing the arrangement must be the ghost hunter. Therefore, all this is likely to be the arrangement left by his biological father. As a result, Chenzon's thoughts moved, and he completely unfolded his ghost realm, shrouding it towards the photo. He seemed to feel the stimulation of the supernatural power. As soon as he touched it, sticky blood began to flow out from around the photo frame. Immediately afterwards, a hand covered with corpse spots protruded from the posthumous photo. Then the second hand, then the head, the body. Chenzon watched quietly as the ghost security guard crawled out of the photo in an unreasonable way. And he also held a blood-stained axe in his hand, and was moving towards Chenzon step by step. Swish! The same axe was raised high and slashed towards Chenzon. But this time, Chenzon casually raised his hand and grabbed the blood-stained axe. After being strengthened by ghost blood, he can easily fight against ghost security guard's axe. But the moment he suppressed the ghost security guard's figure disappeared like a shadow. The bloody still photo suddenly stopped, and then the ghost security guard that disappeared inside reappeared. Everything seems to have never happened. However, this time, Chenzon had a folded note in his hand. It was just when he took advantage of the disappearance of the ghost security guard and took it down with blood droplets in the ghost realm. Opening the note, Chenzon's pupils shrank suddenly. Because the top 4 words are written impressively, daughter Ruaoking. Ruaoking, Chen Ruaoking. This must have been left by my father, but why wasn't I mentioned? Instead, call your daughter directly. Could it be that I am not his biological son? Numerous thoughts began to surface in Chenzon's mind, and he looked down the note. It was found that in addition to the name, only a string of numbers was left. 1234, 789, 317, 497. What do these numbers mean? Chenzon immediately became puzzled when he saw the numbers. It was obvious that his father used the ghost security guard to hide the note, and the note was most likely given to Chen Ruaoking. It's just that it is now obtained by myself. Since it was for Chen Ruaoking, this number must have extraordinary significance. But what is the meaning? Of course, there is another possibility. This is a trap for sister Chen Ruaoking. But that's just a guess, and he prefers the former. You know, even if it was really a trap, if it wasn't for the supernatural incident of the ghost combing hair this time, if the dean's grandmother was killed, there is a high probability that you would not know it. In other words, the existence of this ghost security guard has no intention to let Sister Chen Ruoking find out. If you want to find out, at least you have to wait until Chen Ruoking can suppress the ghost security guard. Did my father know from the beginning that my sister would become a ghost rider? Chen Zan said to himself, but why is it her, not me? Does he think I can't be a ghost hunter? Suddenly, Chen Zan suddenly thought of a possibility. There must be a difference between him and his sister. It's not a matter of blood relationship. The two of them have looked alike since they were young. Even if anyone said they were not brothers and sisters, he wouldn't believe it. In that case, there must be other problems that I don't know about. After pondering for a moment, Chen Zan wrote down the numbers on the note and prepared to send it to Zhu Pengcheng when he had time to see if he could find someone to decipher the secret above. As for other doubts, it needs to be slowly revealed. Finally, Chen Zan left the basement, and when he left, he also took away the portrait of the ghost security guard. The Ping and Welfare Institute, which lost the ghost security guard, should be able to completely return to normal. Standing outside the gate of the orphanage, Chen Zan glanced at the old orphanage and muttered to himself. Can it really go back to normal? The dean's grandmother died, and many children died. This welfare home probably won't be able to go on. I don't know if it was his illusion, but Chen Zan was very calm about the death of the dean's grandmother. He felt that he should be sad, or angry. But this feeling is not much. Perhaps, I, who control the specter, have indeed been affected. After saying a word, Chen Zan put away the ghost domain, took a taxi, and rushed back to the happy community. As soon as he entered the house, he received a call from Zhu Pengcheng. Zhu Dong, I happened to be looking for you, but I didn't expect you to call. Chen Zan said. Ah, is it? Zhu Pengcheng said quickly. Mr. Chen has any orders, just say it. It's not a big deal. Chen Zan said, I have a string of numbers here, you can find someone to help me decipher it, see the meaning inside, remember, don't leak it out. Don't worry, Mr. Chen, I absolutely promise. Zhu Pengcheng patted his chest and said. What's the matter with you? Chen Zan thought that it was Zhu Pengcheng who called him. Ah, it's nothing, I just want to report to you that the gold over Zhou Tai and all the property rights of Dayu's villa have been taken over. Zhu Pengcheng said. Good efficiency. Chen Zan praised. He thought that this kind of thing would take a few days, but he didn't expect it to be done in less than 3 days. Is Zhou Tai's information ready? Now that the things are in hand, the remaining half of the account should also be settled. Ready. Zhu Pengcheng's expression froze. This Dayu Villa Zhou Tai is only one of the shareholders, and the matter of finding the Ghost Master is also what he advocates, and the rest of the shareholders are responsible for taking the money. I heard that this time he gave half of the statement, which was hidden from other shareholders, and he swallowed the other half. Quote. Yes, Chen Zan smiled slightly, and the businessman's mind was indeed much more shrewd. He gave himself half of it and told the shareholders all of it. There was no evidence anyway. Shareholders are also unlikely to seek evidence from themselves. The abacus is good. Humph. Chen Zan snorted coldly. It's a pity, he probably misestimated the ability and temperament of the Ghost Rider. Send me the information. After speaking, Chen Zan hung up the phone. Not long after, a detailed information about Zhou Tai was sent. Chen Zan opened it and saw that Zhou Tai was 58 years old. He had 2 sons and 1 daughter, 3 granddaughters, 2 grandchildren, and 3 wives. I have to say that Zhou Tai is a very skilled person, and the 3 wives have not had any conflicts with each other, including his 2 sons, a daughter and his son-in-law who all work in his company. Chen Zan looked at the information and smiled. His smile was indifferent. Zhou Tai, you will soon understand what despair and regret are. Chen Zan put down the mouse, directly let the ghost doll appear, and manipulated the ghost embroidered shoes to record a recording. It's very simple. A seemingly ordinary footstep can make the ghost doll instantly appear in front of the other party. Before, the reason why ghost embroidered shoes were weird was for this reason. When you hear the sound, you can appear in front of the other party and kill. After finishing this recording, Chen Zan called Zhu Pengcheng directly. I will send you a recording, and you will find someone to send it to Zhou Tai and all his family members over the age of 10. Chen Zan thought for a while, then instructed, remember, don't listen to this recording, and once it is played, it will be automatically destroyed. Zhu Pengcheng's expression changed, and he naturally guessed Chen Zan's plan. There was a hint of hesitation in his tone, and he said, this, Mr. Chen, there are probably dozens of people added up. What, are you questioning me? Chen Zan's voice was still flat, but with a hint of coldness. No, I don't dare, I'll find someone to do it. It's easy to leave this kind of thing to a hacker. Zhu Pengcheng quickly explained. Well, Zhu Dong, I'll only explain it to you once. Chen Zan nodded, his voice could not hear joy or sadness. Now times have changed, Zhou Tai himself knows the existence of the Ghost Rider. If I only kill him, who can guarantee that no Ghost Rider will find me in the future? If we cut the grass without eradicating the roots, but the spring breeze blows, I can leave a child under 10 years old, which is already kind. Quote. After speaking, without waiting for the other party to respond, he hung up the phone directly. In fact, it was not Chen Zan's kindness that kept children under 10 years old, but because he felt that it was impossible for the other party to know his identity. Even if it is known in the future, it will be a few years later. In a few years, he will probably grow to an unimaginable height. Even if the other party knows about it, what can he do? Hiss. Zhu Pengcheng, who hung up the phone, took a deep breath and calmed down his agitated mood. It was too ruthless. Even with Chen Zan's explanation, Zhu Pengcheng still felt it was too ruthless. But he thought about it, times are indeed different, and Chen Zan's affairs can no longer be viewed with ordinary people's eyes. This is just right, I have a better grasp of taking over the Zhaoti industry. Zhu Pengcheng is also a hero, and it didn't take long for him to regain his composure, and he directly asked the hacker to send the recording. The number 1 primary school of magic capital, in the women's bathroom. I'll have the final say after I say it here. Zhou Tianzu, with short hair, slapped a little girl in the face, causing the other party to cry. A few little girls next to her grabbed the little girl's arm tightly, preventing her from struggling a little. Remember, if you wear such beautiful clothes in the future, I will let you disappear from school. Zhou Tianzu's voice was immature, but her tone was very arrogant. The girl was so frightened that she nodded again and again, not daring to disagree at all. Snapped. Suddenly, the door to the bathroom was pushed open, and a female classmate said quickly. No, the teacher is here. Zhou Tianzu straightened his messy hair and strode out. After you mated, I flashed first. The rest of the people did not agree with her actions at all. Who made her family rich? Pushing open the door, Zhou Tianzu walked out. After greeting the teacher politely, he walked straight towards the classroom. On the way, her mobile phone suddenly rang. She took out the mobile phone and opened it, and found that a strange message appeared in her communication software for some unknown reason. Open it subconsciously. Clatter. Da. A very strange sound of footsteps emerged. Who is so boring? How dare you tease my aunt? She cursed in her mouth, raised her head subconsciously, and suddenly, a 1-meter-high doll appeared in front of her. Magic City, the top office of a commercial building. Zhou Tai was sitting upright, and the high-end cigar in his hand was emitting a faint smoke. Beside him, 2 sons, 1 daughter, 2 daughters-in-law, and even son-in-law are all beside him. Dad, this trick of yours is really good. That is, we solved the problem of the Ghost Rider, and we made another profit. The second son said with a smile. Ha ha. For his son's praise, Zhou Tai smiled lightly. If so many people hadn't died, our business would have lost a lot of money. But now that so many people have died, no one is buying Daewoo villas anymore. We invested 100 million yuan, and now rely on these gold to recover more than 200 million yuan. This is business. Quote. The truth is right. Next to him, the eldest son suddenly said, Dad, in this case, are you sure that the Ghost Rider will not be dissatisfied? Dissatisfied. Zhou Tai glanced at him, shook his head slightly and said, there must be dissatisfaction, but it can't reach the point of how it treats us. Because we did not give half, but the other half took the villa as a mortgage. If it really counts, he still earns. Since he made money, why did he find us? Quote. Flicking the cigar in his hand lightly, Zhou Tai said lightly, the so-called grasping of human nature is like this. Dad is wise. As expected of you. I admire you. When everyone was touting, suddenly the phone rang. Then, the second son glanced at the phone and subconsciously connected. What, you said my daughter died? His exclamation caused the entire office to fall into a brief silence. Joe Tai said angrily, what's the matter? Cha, who dares to touch my granddaughter? As soon as he finished speaking, all the cell phones of everyone in the office suddenly rang. Everyone almost subconsciously opened their mobile phones and found an additional email or communication message. Instinctively, they opened directly. Da, clatter. It was very strange, as if the footsteps stepping on people's hearts echoed throughout the office. What? The eldest son scolded angrily. When is this all? Someone is actually playing a prank. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his wife next to him pulled his clothes in horror. Husband, you, look. Swish. Everyone's eyes turned towards the floor-to-ceiling window, and they saw a 1-meter-high doll wearing a black tulle skirt appearing beside the floor-to-ceiling window. On her feet, she was wearing a pair of blood-colored high-heeled shoes. Hey, where did this doll come from? The eldest daughter-in-law said nervously. An unfounded panic rose from the bottom of my heart. The child on the front foot just had an accident, and the back foot stopped the sound of footsteps, and then a strange doll appeared. How can there be so many coincidences? How do I know? The priority is to figure out. The eldest son was talking when suddenly there was a scream from the second daughter-in-law next to him. I saw that the original high heels disappeared on her feet at some point, and were replaced by a pair of embroidered shoes. The embroidered shoes are constantly shrinking, and the sound of broken toes and broken bones can be clearly heard. Ah, it's a ghost, it must be a ghost. The eldest daughter-in-law collapsed completely, and screamed and was about to run outside. Her instinct told her that only by staying away from here can she escape the danger. However, she just ran a few steps, but found herself lightened, as if something had fallen from her body. At this time, others saw in horror that it was her head that fell. Snapped. The black balls kept flapping on the hands of the dolls, and more people dropped their heads or put on a pair of embroidered shoes. In just a few seconds, except for Joe Tai, all his relatives died violently. Kakaka. Feeling the pain of breaking his feet, Joe Tai's calm expression had long since disappeared. Instead, he was terrified. No, it can't be, how could he do that? How could he? When he was about to die, Joe Tai felt a deep regret in his heart, because he knew that all of this was because of the ghost hunter who solved Dayu's villa before. He thought that he had manipulated human nature, but he did not know that the price of his so-called manipulation was the entire family. In just a short time, the Joe family of a generation of top rich people came to an end. And the initiator of all this is cooking a meal for himself at home at the moment, and he doesn't even care about the progress of the matter. It's sizzling. The steak made a tantalizing sound in the pan, and Chen Zan stared intently at the change of the steak. And behind him, I don't know when, a ghost doll wearing a black tulle dress and red high heels has appeared behind him. When Chen Zan turned around, he was stunned, and then smiled. Looks to be faster than I thought. Okay, let's go to the bedroom and rest. As his voice fell, the ghost doll disappeared directly, and when it reappeared, it was already at the bedside of Chen Zan's bedroom. On the bedside table, there was a portrait with a photo of a security guard. Putting the ghost security guard at the bedside, I am afraid that even Chen Zan is the first person among the ghost riders. 2 steaks, plus a large fruit salad. After Chen Zan set the knife, the door opened at the right time, and Chen Ruoking in a leather coat walked in excitedly. Brother, good news, great news. Chen Ruo said softly. You got a promotion and a raise again. Chen Zan glanced at her and asked calmly. No, it's better than this. Chen Ruo chuckled lightly and said, the headquarters just talked to me and said that the next batch of places to control the second specter will have my share. Also, they have found a specter that suits me to control. Oh, Chen Zan raised his brows, and a smile appeared on his face, not bad. In this way, don't you have to worry about Li Gui's recovery. Since my sister was able to receive the news so quickly, it proved that Pang Ling's efficiency was very high, and the entire Sha Kingdom's Ghost Rider headquarters should be able to understand a thing or two about her attitude. It's not that you don't have to worry, it's just that you don't have to worry about it in a short time. Chen Ruoking restrained her smile. Not only that, but after controlling the two specters, the ability I can use will become stronger. Chen Ruoking, although you can control the second specter, you have to be careful. Chen Zan suddenly said seriously, don't think that with Li Gui's suppression, you can be unscrupulous. When you encounter danger, you can't be brave enough to know it. Chen Ruo lightly took a big bite of the steak. Brother, why are you as long-winded as the dean's grandma, and besides, you are not a ghost master, can you understand Li Ghost with me? Why don't I understand? Chen Zan shook his head slightly, how many times have I said that, the specter I control is much stronger than you? Well, I know, brother, you are an S-rank ghost rider, Sha Guo's first line. Chen Ruoking felt that this old man was doing well recently, but he liked to brag too much. So quickly changed the subject. How is Grandma Dean? How is your health? She's dead. Chen Zan's words stopped Chen Ruoking's steak eating. What did you say? The dean's grandma died. She was killed by a ghost. I happened to experience that supernatural incident. Chen Zan calmly said, if you retrieve the file, you should be able to see it. At the same time, in the Xiadu Ghost Rider headquarters, in the underground laboratory. A middle-aged man with gray hair and sunken eyes was looking through the documents at hand with glasses. Anyone who knows him will know that his name is Luoji, who is only 33 years old this year. It just seems that the state of the whole person is close to 53 years old. But in the entire Ghost Rider laboratory, he is the absolute leader, and everyone calls him Dr. Luo. Dr. Luo, this time you really decided to give Chen Ruoking the first priority to control the ghost wood comb. Beside, the person in charge of another laboratory couldn't help but wonder. Is it necessary to break the rules like this for that mysterious gentleman? Luoji looks old in appearance, but his voice is full of energy. This gentleman appeared about a week ago to solve Chen Ruoking's ghost hair recovery problem. Also solved the problem of drowning the ghost realm. He also participated in the recent paranormal incident in the Pingan orphanage. He named the ghost wood comb to Chen Ruoking, which is naturally necessary for us to consider. Quote, but, even if we consider it, we have to be cautious. At least his current identity is still unclear. If it is related to Shenyu technology or other forces, wouldn't it be troublesome? Yes, even if we want to befriend him, we have to figure out his identity. I agree with Professor Zhang's point of view. Several people in charge were talking about it, and suddenly Luoji pushed his glasses and asked, I have the final say here, or do you have the final say? Hearing this, everyone fell silent. It is Luoji who is responsible for helping the Ghost Rider to control the specter, and he led the establishment of the entire laboratory. Naturally, no one dared to refute his words. But next to him, Lu Pingchuan, the deputy head of the Ghost Rider headquarters, smiled and said, haha, don't be angry with Dr. Luo. Everyone is thinking about the safety of the department, but in order to reassure everyone, I have a compromise. Any solution? Luoji looked at Lu Pingchuan. Ask the Ghost Blackboard. Ghost Blackboard. Everyone's pupils shrank when they heard it. This name is not unfamiliar to them. The Ghost Blackboard is a ghost thing once discovered by the Ghost Masters of the Sha Kingdom. Its function is very simple, that is, as long as you ask a question, it will appear chalk on the blackboard to answer your question. Of course, this question is not easy to ask, and it needs to pay a sufficient price. Generally speaking, it is a human life. Because every time the questioner asks a question, he drains his blood and dies. So far, among the ghosts in the entire laboratory, the function and weirdness of the Ghost Blackboard are also at the forefront. I don't recommend it. Luoji immediately denied. The Ghost Blackboard seems to only need one life, but in fact it must be undergoing changes that we don't know about. Once such transactions increase, there may be unforeseen consequences. Quote, I know this. Lu Pingchuan nodded, but in the current situation, the gentleman's identity is indeed too mysterious. It's always right to be cautious. Hearing this, Luoji glanced at the crowd, and then said expressionlessly, since you all agree, then I don't mind giving it a try. Okay, then do it. Lu Pingchuan clapped. 10 minutes later, in a very tightly closed room, everyone appeared one after another. The entire room is covered with a thick layer of gold paint, which is specially used to isolate the fluctuations that ghosts may emit. A blackboard with a stand is placed near the wall. Said to be a blackboard, it is actually a notice board. Covered with a white cloth, you can't see inside. And the few people who walked in at this time all wore special golden glasses, which could isolate some fluctuations. Then, a death row inmate was escorted in, and the agreement had been signed long before he came. As long as the task is completed, his family will receive a generous pension. Soon, Luoji handed a note to the death row inmate, and he just had to read it. Then another professor reached out and dropped the white cloth covering the blackboard. Whoa, the white cloth fell, and a small blackboard that looked ordinary and pitch black like ink appeared like that. However, everyone in the room looked at this blackboard with a vigilant glow. Because, all people who see the blackboard, if they are not specially protected, will have an urge from the bottom of their hearts, an urge to ask questions. At this time, the impulse of the death row prisoner appeared. He directly opened the note in his hand and began to read it. Tell me, who is the Ghost Rider codenamed Gentleman? The words fell, and everyone stared intently at the blackboard. In the first few seconds, nothing seemed to change, but soon, the death row prisoner, who had just stood motionless, suddenly twitched violently. I saw the pores all over his body opened, and countless blood mist seemed to be sucked out by a terrifying suction force. In just a few seconds, all the blood in the body of the condemned prisoner was sucked dry. Finally, float directly to the ghost blackboard. Absorb all the blood mist that remains. Crunch. The sour voice suddenly sounded, and I vaguely felt a figure inside the blackboard, holding a chalk and writing continuously. And the written words are all made of blood. The ghost hunter codenamed Gentleman, his identity is. The strokes made of blood make the whole blackboard full of weirdness and horror. But at this time, everyone was staring at the blackboard, wanting to see who this figure was. Suddenly, one stroke was written first, but this stroke was extremely short, as if it had not been written at all. At this moment, a mysterious force began to seep out, as if searching for the source of this identity. At this moment, Chen Zan, who had just cleaned up his dishes, suddenly raised his head in the kitchen. He raised his eyebrows and looked out the window, not knowing why he felt like he was being watched. But this feeling only lasted for a moment and then stopped abruptly. Kaka. In the laboratory, the blood on the ghost blackboard stopped instantly after only one stroke. Then the entire blackboard actually began to tremble slightly, as if it had encountered an incomparably powerful resistance. What happened? Someone exclaimed. This ghost blackboard has never happened before. Can't you write it? Who is that gentleman? How is it possible? Even if it is the incarnation of the ghost, it is not impossible to write it, right? Just as everyone was discussing, a crack appeared from the corner of the blackboard with a click. Immediately afterwards, the blood on the entire blackboard disappeared. There was a dead silence in the room, and everyone looked at this scene in astonishment. The ghost blackboard is actually broken. After a long while, someone murmured in a dry voice. What kind of existence is this gentleman? Even the ghost blackboard can't bear it. The ghost blackboard actually broke. This has completely subverted the cognition of everyone in the entire room. You know, the reason why ghosts are called ghosts is because they contain the characteristics of ghosts. They cannot be killed, and they cannot be destroyed. But now, just writing a single stroke, even a small stroke, caused a crack to appear on the entire ghost blackboard. This is simply incredible. Dr. Luo, what the hell is going on? Lu Pingchuan looked at the top person in charge of the laboratory. It is estimated that only he can answer this situation. In the room, Luo Ji, who saw this scene, was not at all frightened, and even a gleam of light flickered from his eyes. Due to staying up late, some red eyes were widened at the moment, but he took the initiative to take a few steps and leaned in front of the ghost blackboard to observe carefully. Seeing his actions, no one else in the room moved, not even breathing. Because there are more than one professor and even the person in charge present, but in terms of understanding of Spectre, Luoji is the worthy first person in the entire laboratory. Otherwise, why would he be able to lead all professors as a doctor? For 2 full minutes, Luoji whispered something while watching. But fortunately, he was sensible and did not ask the ghost blackboard. After a while, he raised his head and looked at the crowd. According to my judgment, the reason why the ghost blackboard broke is because it exceeded its answer limit. Answer upper limit. Everyone was stunned, a little puzzled. Right. Luoji's face didn't fluctuate too much. It's like human imagination. I let you imagine bananas, oranges, you can know the definite shape, but I let you imagine aliens, or wormholes, there is only a vague concept. Humans don't get headaches because of imagination, but Spectre is different, they have no thoughts, let alone consciousness. Instead, it instinctively follows its own rules. It's clear that our questions go beyond what it can answer, so much so that it's constantly looking for a breach within the rules. The radiant ghost power finally made the receptor, that is, this blackboard, a little bit unbearable, and it would lead to rupture. Quote. As soon as he said that, everyone completely understood. But then came a bigger shock. What the hell is this gentleman? Can it reach such a point? Even an S-rank ghost rider might not be able to do it, right? Could it be that he is an SS-level ghost hunter? Or is it SSS level? In fact, how do they know that the reason why Chen Zan can't be ridden by the ghost blackboard is not because of his own strength, but because his own soul is not a person in this world at all? People who do not exist in this world have surpassed the cognition of the ghost blackboard, and naturally there is no way to write them. Of course, if you ask another way, for example, what is the real name of the gentleman ghost hunter in this world? Ghost blackboard should have answers soon. However, unless someone knows that he is not from this world, but if he knows, there is no need to ask the ghost blackboard, which is a paradox in itself. This is not exactly clear. Luoji thought for a while and said, but this is not necessarily a bad thing for us, at least this ghost rider doesn't have any obvious ill feelings towards us. Minister Lu, I think we should pay more attention to that Chen Ruoking, including the people around her, and all the information should be as detailed as possible. Maybe it can help us in times of crisis. Quote. Understood, I'll call someone to do it. Lu Pingchuan nodded. There was no ghost blackboard incident before, so he hadn't paid so much attention to the gentleman's ghost master. But now even the ghost blackboard is in this state, which has to make him pay attention. Dr. Luo, the job of controlling the second specter will be troubled by you personally presiding over it. He thought about it and asked again. Well, I'll see for myself. Roy nodded. Soon, Chen Ruoking received a notification from the ghost controller at the headquarters to complete the plan to control the second ghost for her as soon as possible. For the next time, Chen Ruoking's main energy was focused on this. And Chen Zan also had a rare leisure time. Mr. Chen, the Deu Villa has almost been cleaned up. I have seen the decoration of the villa area there, and they are all complete. Happiness Community, Chen Zan's apartment, Zhu Pengcheng Zhengwei reports. If you agree, you can move at any time. Chen Zan nodded slightly. Don't worry for now, I'll talk about it when my sister is done with her work. Chen Ruoking had already left home yesterday and went to the Ghost Rider headquarters to prepare to control the second specter. Although the possibility of an accident is unlikely, Chen Zan still wants to stay in Xiadu for a few days, and then consider moving when the other party is really fine. Okay, sir, I made my own decision before and bought a batch of stocks when the Zhou family was finished. Zhu Pengcheng said carefully. Now 80% of the Zhou family's industry has been controlled by us, mainly involving real estate, transportation, logistics and other industries. Oh, Chen Zan glanced at Zhu Pengcheng in surprise. He didn't expect this guy to be able to grasp this information and make a lot of money. Zhu Dong's business vision is indeed unique. In this case, you should move to Deu Villa after a while. Hearing these words, Zhu Pengcheng's eyes suddenly filled with surprise. He didn't expect that Chen Zan would give him such a good opportunity. In this era, Spectre is constantly recovering, and the most important thing in the future is not money and status, but safety. Chen Zan will move to Deu's villa in the future, and his safety will be greatly guaranteed by his side. This is simply a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This made Zhu Pengcheng more convinced that his previous decision was right. Thank you, sir. After bowing, Zhu Pengcheng left here with someone. When he left, Chen Zan got up and walked to the bathroom, where the ghost doll was standing in the bathtub, surrounded by water. Then the corpse water on her body began to seep, turning the entire bathtub into corpse water. Then Chen Zan opened his own ghost realm and absorbed all the corpse water in it. This is the method he discovered in the past 2 days to improve his ghost domain. This kind of ghost realm must absorb the power of the supernatural before it can expand and expand. Chen Zan tried to absorb the power of the ghost security guard and found that only the liquid type was easier to absorb. The power of the ghost security can be good, but the efficiency is too low. Of course, it is also possible that his own ghost domain is not strong enough. It would be nice to be able to transform into open water. It's not that Chen Zan never thought about taking the ghost dolls to some lakes and rivers in Xiadu. Because of the flowing nature of the river, if it is not handled properly, the dead water may cause disaster. The best thing to do is to park those immobile stagnant waters. There are indeed a lot of Xiadu Park, but the problem is that there are too many people, and it will be discovered by others. Chen Zan didn't want to be targeted by the Ghost Riders at the Ghost Rider headquarters because of this. He is not arrogant enough to compete with the entire Sha Kingdom. For 3 days in a row, Chen Zan has been slowly improving his ghost realm by running water in the bathroom at home. I checked in several times during the period, but all of them were grade ghosts, ghost head ropes. He also didn't know why the system gave him so many ghost ropes. Is one not enough for Chen Ruoking? Want so much? Are you planning to change your hairstyle? Finally, after Chen Zan complained silently for 5 days, the sign-in reward on the 6th day was finally changed. Open black lens bracket ding. The sign-in is completed. Congratulations to the host for getting the reward. A-level ghost, Ghost Cane of the Ghost Puzzle. Close black lens bracket. Ghost Cane. This is not a simple cane, but the source of magic that can change the world. Ghost Cane. Chen Zan looked at the dark cane in his hand in confusion. Is this also one of the ghost puzzles? He now has a ghost hat, a ghost windbreaker, a ghost glove, a ghost mask, and now a ghost cane. It really looks and feels like a gentleman from the West. Does it really coincide with the code name officially given to me by the Ghost Rider? While wondering to himself, Chen Zan held the ghost cane in his hand, and in an instant, Chen Zan felt the real purpose of the cane. Can create hallucinations to deceive people's senses. It's more a magic wand than a cane. However, with this, Chen Zan suddenly thought that he could go out and improve his ghost realm. In the dead of night, Chen Zan put on his ghost puzzle and activated the ability of ghost embroidered shoes, and appeared directly in a park in Xiadu. There is a huge artificial lake in the park, which has been closed at this time. Only the patrolling security has lights flashing from time to time. He raised his cane and waved it slightly, and suddenly his own figure and even the figure of the ghost puppet next to him became illusory. A beam of light flashed by, but nothing unusual was found. And the ghost doll took this opportunity to enter the artificial lake. The ghost realm opened, and countless clear water streams began to become turbid. Chen Zan stood aside, wearing a blood-stained mask, quietly waiting for the lake water to turn into corpse water. A whole night passed, and in the largest park in Xiadu, all the water from the artificial lake was drained. What was left were countless dead ornamental fish, all of which were corroded into a corpse by the corpse water. Early the next morning, when the dazed security guards patrolled again, they looked at the dried-up artificial lake and let out a shocking exclamation. Such a bizarre scene, but no evidence can be found. Even monitoring found nothing unusual. It felt like the lake was being drank by someone. Soon, this thing was on the news. Naturally, it also attracted the attention of the Ghost Rider headquarters. Captain Zhang, I heard that the artificial lake in Xiaoduyuan was strangely dry last night, and there were still many corroded fish corpses. Ghost Lantern Cao Feng said suspiciously, should we go take a look? No, Zhang Qing shook his head, just received a notification that one of our captain-level Ghost Riders has lost contact. Let us take part in the rescue and set off immediately. Quote. What? The captain-level Ghost Rider disappeared. Ghost Lantern Cao Feng's expression changed and he exclaimed, then what can we do? Isn't it a death sentence? This is an order. Besides, we are not going to go by ourselves. This time, the team is led by 2 captain-level Ghost Riders, and 3 teams are going together. Zhang Qing looked back and saw Chen Ruoking in a leather coat walking out. Let's go, let's talk about the specific situation on the way. Hey, Captain, where are we going? Fengmin Village. What? That first ghost village? What nonsense is said, it's all feudal superstition, and at most there are ghosts. Quote. Cao Feng was about to cry, so it's not as good as feudal superstition, right? Dot 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 dot. What? Are you going to Fengman village on a mission? On the other side, Chen Zan received a call from Chen Ruoking and couldn't help frowning. Oh, it's not the Fengman village you mentioned, it's a deserted village 300 miles away from Xiadu. Because no one is there, they call it Fengman village. Chen Ruoking sat in the car and explained carelessly, and this time we have 2 captain-level people leading the team, and there are still 3 teams, so it must be fine. Fine, Chen Zan frowned. With so many people going together, it would be strange to say that it was all right. Okay, be careful yourself, don't be careless. Know it. Chen Ruoking waved his hand indifferently and hung up the phone. By the way, Captain Zhang, doesn't it mean that there is no one in Fengman village? Why did the missing captain still come in? Although she has a carefree personality, she is also vigilant enough in the task. Yeah, it's true that this village has been abandoned for a long time. Zhang Dui was driving, but his face flashed with unprecedented solemnity. But now, it has someone. What? Cao Feng and Chen Ruoking were both heartbroken. There were people in a village that had been abandoned for an unknown period of time. Just these few words make people feel extremely strange and terrifying. Dot 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 dot. Mr. Chen, the digital secret you asked me to inquire about has already come to fruition. On the other side, Chen Zan just received a call from Zhu Pengcheng. It's a set of coordinates. Coordinate. Chen Zan frowned. Where are you pointing? This, I don't know. Zhu Pengcheng frowned and shook his head. The coordinates are fine, but the indicated place is above the sea outside the magic capital. Sea area. Are there no islands? Chen Zan asked. According to the information of this number, it is impossible to give only one open sea. I don't think so either. Zhu Pengcheng nodded, but the reality has already been confirmed by someone, and it is indeed just an open sea. Mr. Chen, I marked on the map and will send you the information now. Quote. Chen Zan hesitated, then nodded, okay. Hanging up the phone, he quickly received the message, and indeed saw a sea area marked on the map, and there were no traces of any small islands. According to his guess, this number should have been left by his father to his sister, and it cannot be a meaningless coordinate. But now, Chen Zan is not too relieved about the situation in Fengman village. After thinking about it, he decided to suppress this matter first. Wait for the situation in Fengman village. At the same time, several off-road vehicles were also parked outside a deserted village hundreds of miles away from Xiadu. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.